Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday. Where am I at here? Thursday, August the 1st, 2024. It's another technicalalpha podcast. Glad you could join us today. Hope you're doing well. It's a bit of a rainy day here. We had one decent day yesterday, and we're right back to gloomy weather. But honestly, it's been so damn dry, it's probably for the best anyway. Glad you could join us today. Where am I going here? There we go. We got her. Glad you could join us today. Got a good show lined up as always. Very well structured, just like last week's. In that there is zero structure because my mom is still upstairs and having almost just left. We've been doing the, it was limited times for her and Em to be in the same room at the same time. For us to be able to set up for wedding-related stuff, because Mom is officiating, of course, and so we've got to go through all the marriage licensing and all of the other bits and bobs, as the wedding is at the end of the month, and so that was happening just before, and we ran a few minutes beyond, but we're here, and we've got a great show as always lined up. Whether we know what we're talking about or not, doesn't fucking matter. It's a good show. But before we get started, the most important question of the week, Mr. Black, how's your week?
It's fine. Just another week. Same old same.
Lovely. But it ain't the same old same. In fact, that's what we're going to be talking about today. You've been playing Stormgate. In fact, you were playing Stormgate 3 minutes ago.
I was.
And so that's actually I think we're going to center most of the show is just shoot the shit about Stormgate, what your experience has been so far with it. See how things are. I was watching some off and on as well of you playing and some other videos. Oh, is my voice? Oh, wait, I know why. Okay, hold on. I forgot to get rid of this. There we go. My video will line up now. Yes, watching some of that, and so I figured that would be a good thing to mostly chat about today, and then just stick with that and anything else that comes to mind. Because really, other than yesterday, I mean, just as far as gaming news is concerned, Bungie just laid off 200 and something people. Some of them were being moved to Sony. Some of them are being moved to another unnamed, at least the last I checked, unnamed company. And then a bunch of them are just getting straight up laid off. And so obviously, like every other time, there's always discussions around it because it never feels good when your development team just puts out a game and it's critically well received and it sells a bunch of copies and everyone's celebrating, and then your boss shows you the fancy new cars they just bought with the bonus they made because the game did well, and then he walks in the door the next day and fires everyone. It's never a good look. The optics are never good, so there's been discussion around the optics around that, but nevertheless that happened. And then other than that, not like a substantial amount going on with gaming. Although Gamescom, I believe, is happening right now, and so we'll probably have some more perhaps next week as that develops. But that's it. So we're going to talk a little bit about Stormgate. My week was also another week insofar as that other than just continuing to get ready for the wedding. I've just been, doing some streams when I can because my contract job is basically dried up at the moment. It ends at the end of the month, so I've been hopping back on stream, doing more streams recently, and playing a lot of Guild Wars 2, which is something that I would do once a year for like a day, and then put Guild Wars 2 down, and then never look at it again for another year, and then come back to it. And this time, for the first time since it came out, which was 12 years ago, I have a character at level 80. I maxed a character level out, and so I've been enjoying it so far. And we'll continue to play that. And otherwise, that's been it with that, and just getting ready for a frickin' wedding. Really, is about my entire existence right now, and will continue to be so for the next 3+ weeks leading into it. But everything's on track. Everything's looking good. Really, at this point, it's more about just cross our fingers for good weather because it's an outdoor event. We do have a tent, of course, so that if weather does become inclement, we won't all be stuck out in the rain. But otherwise, yeah, it went well. Em went out with her friends yesterday. It was a surprise get together. The girls put on a little surprise get together for her. Even though she's like the day before they scheduled this, she told them, she's like, I don't want anything. They did it anyway. So they went and did it anyway. And she went out yesterday and thankfully got the ring on her hand in time. It had to be sized again. And so, which I think I talked about last week because she thought she was a 5, but she's a 5.5. And so I got that in on Friday. I said, look, I need this bitch done Wednesday, early. This has to be on her. If she's seen her friends and there is still not a ring on this finger, even though the proposal I will be shot and killed. Something has to happen.
Killed. You'll die. Death. There'll be no wedding.
So thankfully,
you'll be dead.
I'll be dead. There'll be no use for a wedding anymore. So thankfully, they got it sized in time, like to the minute. I was like escaping the mall as her friend had shown up here at the house, and I was like, for fuck's sake! So I'm getting back, and anyway, it all worked out in the end. So my reputation has now been salvaged with her friends who have been all questioning me as a human being for a few months now. Of course, I can't say anything as to why it was taking so long. The ring was taking so long to get here. But it was because, of course, I didn't just walk into the store and buy it, designed it and had it custom made. So it took a long time, but we got there. It was all done. So it's been a good week. And now we're just, I think the next phase here, as far as I'm concerned for wedding prep, is not necessarily wedding related, but it's getting the house ready for her parents. So there's some last minute stuff. Like I want to take the shutters down. They need to be cleaned and painted. The front door still needs to be painted. I got to do some yard work and whatnot. Got to have the house looking fresh for the in-laws. It's got to look good. First impression, it's got to look good. The deck is almost done. So, you got to get that first impression locked up. So that's what I'll be working on. But otherwise, that's been it. That's been the week. And now it's time to talk about some Stormgate, Mr. Black. Fresh in your mind after having just left it. I can't tell, but I want to say that you might have left Stormgate tilted. I can't tell for sure, but it feels like there's some tilt.
I did.
Because and I know there's tilt because I had just about pressed the live button and Jeff said we need to get this going like right now, which means Mr. Black was tilted at a Stormgate. I knew it right off the rip. I knew that it was mostly that, and so we'll talk about the tilt. I'm sure. I suspect it has to do with the fact that Celestials can cheese the fuck out of everyone on every map forever right now. But just before we get to that part of the tilting today, what is your initial impressions? You got 3 days under the belt now. So what is if you're elevator pitching this to somebody who has been looking at this game from a distance for, its development, how are we feeling in these first few days?
I think overall positive.
Okay.
Overall positive.
Okay.
It is much better than what I played back in this late December, which was the last time I played the game. So it's been quite some time. But there are still things about the game that I'm not a huge fan of.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about let's get the bad out the way. Let's just get let's get the negative out the way.
Rip the Band-Aid off. All right, what do we got?
Artistically, it's still ass.
Okay.
It's not a pretty game.
Okay.
It's just not. It's just not. And I've went back and I looked at day one stuff from StarCraft.
Right. Which was rough in its own way at the time.
It was rough in its own way, but even that looks better than this.
Right.
And this is like 14 years later or 15 years later. What are we doing? Like, is it an ugly game? It's not ugly, but it's like, this is supposed to be the next thing. I think if the game looked better and
so when you say look better, is there part of it? I know like your general thought is it's all kind of not great, but are there parts specifically about how it looks that stand out to you the most as to why you think it doesn't look like a game from 2024?
It just looks dated. It just looks like it's really hard to put my finger on it, because in one aspect it looks okay. Like it's serviceable. Like it's fine. But like I don't want just fine. I want the game. I don't need the graphics to be like super ultra realistic or anything along those lines. And honestly, in my opinion, a lot of the negative from the art direction keeps going back to the fact that so much of it looks the same. I'll give them this. There's 3 different races. All 3 races are distinctively different. So they all look different. They all sound different. They all play different. It's actually quite nice. So, and I'll get to that on a positive side. But just because those 3 things look different doesn't mean those 3 things look good. And I played only the Celestials and the Vanguard. I think I played 1 game of the Infernals. But I can tell you right now that I've played probably 20 hours-ish of Vanguard, the buildings, they almost all look the same. Like there are a couple of buildings that are basically similar to, say, like a Twilight Council or a Templar Archive or a robotics facility. All 3 of those basically look identical, except like slightly different roofs, or like to the point where
it's a lot of cylindrical buildings. Like they're circular. Like, so from the top, they all kind of look.
They look the same.
They
look the same, and that can become confusing. It's ugly. It just feels like they copied and pasted a lot of the assets and then just slightly made changes. And I think you can get away with that when you're doing placeholders and you're starting out on in a game. But I mean, Jesus, even still the units. It's so fucking hard sometimes to even see like the Bobs, which are your SCVs, when they're next to an Echo or it's called an Exco, or I think it's called the Exco, EXO, or basically the Marines of the Vanguard. It's hard to differentiate. Now, if you know what you're looking for, you'll see the difference. But just at like face value, it's really, it's just ugly. The game is very, very dull looking. It's like soulless. It doesn't really feel like you're playing anything that has heart. So those are my, and then on top of that, the Celestials, they're broken as fuck. I mean, this shit is so, it's embarrassingly bad.
Okay,
like,
I know
bad.
Okay, I know you want to set the world on fire over the Celestials, but let's take this one step at a time, and we'll get to the broken Celestials. So I just want to make sure that we get as clear as we can about the visual side of things. We don't need to rush through this per se. So it sounds like when I'm hearing you talk about it, there's a couple of parts to this. One is you just think, generally speaking, from a graphical perspective, meaning the fidelity of models and things of that nature, just it looks dated from that regard. They don't look like a high quality model, because there's 2 things. There's graphic fidelity, and then there's art direction. Like those 2 things, right? So Blizzard has always been king at art direction being as good or better than the graphic fidelity. It can be a very high quality model, high polygon count, etc., but you can take a high polygon count, reduce it, and if it has great art direction, it still looks like a really pretty game because the art direction is carrying it hard. And it sounds like what you're saying here is that it's a 2-point thing where while you're not as concerned with it being high fidelity, the art direction part is not doing it for you at all, and it feels soulless and whatnot, which is bad on its own. But what I'm also hearing a lot of still, and we talked about this before you even got to play it months ago, was that the readability, because the art direction is what it is, where buildings look the same, units look the same within its own race, right? So buildings look the same. and units look the same. They're different, but when you get them into a ball, and when we were watching you, when I was content farming you for about a half hour the other day, and we were watching you play, that was like the thing. Everyone's saying very similar things, and looking at it is, when you balled up your units to get ready to go somewhere, if you weren't looking for, I don't know the unit names yet, but the XOs are basically the Marines, and then there's one there's a unit that is about 15% larger than a Marine that has a sword or something similar.
Lancer.
Yeah. So when they're separate, if you just had one Lancer and one XO, and you stuck them next to each other, you could probably, because one's got a sword, it's fine. But when they get put into a ball to go move somewhere, you're fucked.
Yeah,
it fucked. Just looks all like an amorphous blob, and it all looks the same. Yeah. And until you get into the mech units, it's very difficult to differentiate, which is hard for you from a micro perspective, because clearly I'm going to assume an XO unit is going to be micro differently from a Lancer or whatever unit.
Way different. Yeah.
Way different. And then from the perspective of if it was you up against a Vanguard, if you're trying to prioritize in real time, in micro, who you're going to attack, how you're going to, your first read of an army, how am I going to tackle this? It becomes very difficult because you're spending too much time trying to fucking suss out what's even in that army to begin with. So does that sound right? Like, as your gripes?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. You nailed it. And that's it. And do I think that the game needs a complete overhaul from its art design? No, I don't think it needs a complete overhaul. I'm fine with the vibe that they got going on. Like, it's very clear the whole cartoony type shit that they got going on is staying. That ain't going anywhere.
No, of course
not.
So
if that's the case, fine. But tighten the shit up, man. Like, I don't know if you got to redesign how the units look. I don't know. I'm not a game designer. I'm just, and there's a lot of people. There's I shouldn't say a lot, but there's a few content creators, right? And I've gone into their streams, just kind of watching while I was laying in bed last night, and a few of them, not all of them, but a few. They were championing. They were basically because all of their chats were the same thing. What the fuck is this? This is a mobile game? Is this what is this? Like, StarCraft 2 looks better, and here we are in 2024. What the fuck? And some of these content creators, I don't know if they're fucking. I mean, I don't think anybody's getting paid to play this, but I don't know if they're really trying to fucking suck off Stormgate so they can get gigs or opportunities, or I don't know, or they're just on pure cope and they're just fucking chill out, the art isn't that important. It's all about how the game plays. And it's well, I agree with that. But when a lot of people, their first experience, their first take on this game is ugly, is not a good introduction to the game. No. It's just not, right? And there are some content creators I watch, they're it needs work. I feel your frustration, so on and so forth. Listen, I could beat this in the fucking head a million times over about the art design. We all know, just anybody with fucking common sense can watch this game for 30 minutes and they're almost all gonna think the same thing. It's extremely underwhelming. The visuals, it's extremely underwhelming, and to the point where you don't look at it and go, "Man, I got to get my hands on this." It's just okay, if you're into RTS and you've been through the cycles of StarCraft 2 and you understand the development stages and the balancing acts that went on and how the game kind of shaped, you're not as concerned because we've been through it. I understand. But as a content creator, I got to explain this thing. I got to explain to people all the time that this is still early access and, it's got work to do. And it's to the point now where they were hearing about people bitching about the art design since December. Or even before December, before anybody even got their hands on this fucking game, people were like, "Dude, this don't look so good." And they kept saying, we understand, we're working on this. Even when you boot up the game, it even part of it says that the visuals are going to change. So they're well aware. But I mean, between now and December, it hasn't improved all that much.
They changed the shaders a bit. So the shaders, the unit shaders changed a bit. Yeah.
Correct. It has improved, and those shader changes helped immensely. But it didn't change the fact that things still just look like a blob of the same for each race. So even like when I play StarCraft, whether you're Terran, you're Protoss, you're Zerg, all of the units are very like you. And I'm not just saying this because I've put tens of thousands of hours into the game. You look at a Zealot and you look at a Stalker. They're two totally different things. You look at a Stalker and you look at a Sentry, it's two totally different things. You look at a Void Ray and a Phoenix, two totally, like, it's very clear. You look at a Zergling and a Hydra, two totally different things. You look at a Roach and a Zergling, two totally different things. You look at a fucking, what was it, Terran? You look at a Marine, and you look even a Marauder, which are the two closest things. That's basically like an Exo and a Lancer.
Yeah.
That's basically, those are your two things. You can still clearly tell the difference between a Marine and a Marauder, just simply from how fat the fucking Marauder is. It just stands out. You don't have that in this game. Now, you have that with the Celestials. The Celestials, very different. I don't think that they struggle as much with their structures most certainly do. I mean, that's a mess. Because all it is like polygons and fucking tubes, and it all looks the same. I literally when I'm scouting, I had to click on a building and like read what the building name is because they look so similar. It's the same thing with the Mech Lab and the Mech Bay. It's a lab or a bay, maybe both for the Vanguard. Almost every game, I have to physically click on each one to see which is which. Which, I just shouldn't. I don't have to do that in StarCraft. I don't have to figure out what's a Templar Archive and what's a Stargate and what's a Gateway and it's just there.
And it's not even your experience level. It's just that they look so similar. Like in StarCraft, those structures are wildly different for that reason. I'm going to theory craft a bit here as to why perhaps StarCraft is better at this than Stormgate is. If I looked at if it was me and I have this much development experience in video games, zero. However, if I was doing an RTS and one of my first visual decisions in the art team was how are we going to allow players to be able to distinguish things very quickly, whether it's their own units or the enemy's units.
Yeah.
Like anything with art, you start with shapes. So if you look at StarCraft units and you look at a Marine and you look at a Marauder, one is more like a fucking rectangle and the other is more like a square. Correct. Like double the width. So a Marauder and a Marine are similar in height, but one is double the width of the other. So visually, your brain is processing two shapes very quickly. That's it. The difference between a Exo and a Lancer is when I said 15% difference in size, that's basically what it is. It's almost exactly the same.
One has like a Cloud Buster sword, and the other doesn't. And yes, you're absolutely right. If you have like say under 4 of them, easy to distinguish. But once they're clumped, you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 of these things, it is what it is.
So you'll see units shaped in various ways. There's like you're looking ones that like air towards a triangle, and one's a rectangle, one's a square, one's more of a circle. And these are all because your brain, your memory, your visual is of shape first, and then detail later. Detail is you cannot rely on hard detail in a quick just snap judgment. That's not how a brain fucking functions. We function in basic and go up from there. So now their problem is that I think what they might run into, I hope they don't run into, is that they are trying to add detail, which is what they do with the shaders, which help to a degree, but it's going to only help so much. It's the shape difference between the units that will make snap judgment calls in battle significantly more or less difficult. And I think that's probably their biggest hurdle, which means the problem with that, of course, is that it means that you're talking about pretty sweeping model changes and not just changing a texture.
And that's a problem because then you're fucking with a whole lot of other shit. Exactly.
That's costly.
So anyway, I don't want to beat that. I think it's universally known at this point. There's a few content creators that just refuse to hear some of the criticisms, and I obviously they're really rooting for this game to succeed in a big way, and I get that. I want it to as well. But I'm not going to shy on how I feel about the game or some of the criticisms.
Yeah, of course.
So that's the visuals.
Okay.
So we know that they're are they bad? I don't think it's bad. It's just so underwhelming.
I think they have a good floor to
go
build off of.
Correct. If they're willing to invest the time and money into actually doing this, right?
Yes, yeah.
If they want to have staying power. Like you want to be the next StarCraft, or do you just want to have 3 months in the sun and then die,
disappear into the ether,
disappear into the ether, right? Because there's only going to be so much time in which the player is going to allow excuses, or that this is new, give it time. So anyway, there's that. Sure. The other bad thing, the Celestials. Now, I'm not going to get into the units and all this other stuff. I'm just going to say this.
Right.
They just released the Celestials like in at the end of the last play tests. Right. Before they release this game. They are not ready. Okay? The design of them, cool. The thought behind them is unique. Mm-hmm. They're basically the Protoss. Yep. The little bit of Zerg tendencies in there, though, almost Nidusy in how they can change where their units come out of structures and stuff like that. Yeah, it feels very Protossy, but I think what's cool about this one too is it also doesn't feel like Protoss. Yeah. It almost feels like they finally figured out how to make a fourth race that isn't quite a mimic of other ones. Yep. The Zerg race, the Infernals. The Infernals, they are basically the undead in Warcraft. Even more so than it is Zerg. It's basically undead, except they've got like Zerg creep, so you can put down these like almost tumors, but they're not called tumors. There's something else, and it builds out the stuff. And then there's benefits of being on that. Yeah. And then of course Vanguard is literally Terran. It is the most bland, basic, boring. Like most people are like, "Oh, why are you playing these?" Well, I'm playing it because it's the race that is the most fleshed out. It's the race that had the most time. And not only that, it's literally a carbon copy of you can learn the game faster jumping into Vanguard than anything else because it's 100%. The closest proxy to something from StarCraft. Yeah. 100%. So the Celestials, what they should have done is either, I don't want to say worked harder and got it out sooner because I'm sure they're working extremely hard, but they really needed to delay the they needed to delay the release of the Celestials because they are so incredibly imba and broken. It's to the point where out of the top 25 on ladder right now, there's only one Vanguard, and there is maybe 5 or 6 of the Zerg Infernals, and all the rest is Celestial. And they're doing the same. It's the same type of build, and I know this. I know this because I am the fucking god of abusing builds and things in a game to maximize to basically as a crutch for my lack of talent in certain departments in StarCraft. I know what to do, like how to let me rephrase all this. I fully understand how to find timings and things that are broken, but broken in the sense that it's broken at a certain level. Yeah. Then when you get to the peak of the mountain, it's no longer broken because now you're against people that understand what you're doing. There's a butt coming here. There's a correct. With this, That ain't it. This isn't a. Okay,
it don't matter what level you're at.
It don't matter what level. And the better you are, the more broken they are. Because then if you can add in the ability to micro really well or make decisions as an RTS player, like those little intricacies that casual players don't even think of, dude, it's busted. I mean, beyond busted. Like,
I mean, I've
so
seen
bad.
it. They show up on your
It's so
doorstep
bad.
with twice the unit count in very short periods of time.
Yeah, and it's some of them the units just don't die, and they just keep going and going and going. And so, am I like mad about it? I'm not mad. It's just frustrating that there are, and if you have something that's strong, people are just going to ladder and they're just going to abuse it and they're just going to keep doing the same thing. And I've told myself, I'm not playing Celestials. I'm not touching them because I'm going to fall into what I always fall into. And I'm going to go, okay, well, hey, I'm going to find one or two builds and I'm going to do those two builds and I'm going to climb very, very quickly. But my overall ability to play the game at a high level will be stifled simply from the fact that I'm not experiencing, I'm just basically abusing this until they nerf this. And then it'll get nerfed and I'm going to go, okay, now what? Find the next thing to abuse. So that shit is just bad. It's to the point too where like the Celestial players, they don't even deny it. Like in StarCraft, they'd be like, "Oh,
everyone
fuck
knows,
you, pussy." Yeah, like fuck you, pussy. Like, oh, get good, get better. They're like, yeah, it's bad. Like they just know it's bad. So that's bad. If they don't nerf this within 2 weeks, I'm wiping my hands clean. Like I won't grind this game until that shit is nerfed and balanced. It's that bad. It's either that or I'll just leave every game. As soon as I see Celestial, I'll just leave. Or I'll play and I'll open up and I'll do a certain build order. And then if I die, I die. It's whatever. But I'm just literally playing to mechanically get better for me, not necessarily playing to win. So the Celestials are bad. They're a cool race, very cool design, like how they work and the theory behind them. And I only played, I think, one game with them, but man, it was very, very cool. A little bulky, a little big, kind of ugly. Everything kind of looks the same. Like they're just big. They look like polygons. They look like fucking Final Fantasy VII characters, but in 2024, but building structures like they're just like triangles and weird. You know what I mean? But it's cool. That's cool. And I think once they balance this, that's going to be a really fun race to not only cast and watch, but to play as well. Very, very cool design. So I give them props on that. But it's just broken. They need to fix that. And I actually think what they need to do is they need to nerf it so bad to the point where it's underpowered and then work up from there. Like they literally need to take it at the back of the barn, shoot it, and then bring it back to life. Because it's really, really bad. And they need to fix it quick because who's gonna want to grind that out? I don't know. So, maybe people that play the Celestials.
So what seems to be like, because to say that they're broken is one thing, but as from a feedback perspective, as somebody playing against them, because you only played one game of them, so as somebody playing against them, what seems to be, if you had to pick the top 3 things that are causing them to be so broken from the perspective of defending against them and trying to beat them, what seems to be the things making them an almost insurmountable opponent right now, if you could pick 3 things?
Well, I don't, because I don't really play them, I can't give you...
No, just from the perspective of somebody playing against them. So like not them specifically.
So the perspective is they can basically expand whenever, wherever. I mean, you literally have like a mothership core that just kind of goes around, and you can also do proxy stuff, which will be really cool for like cheeses and like I've had.
Yeah, you can literally change where your units come out based on where these buildings are. Yeah.
Very, very Protoss-y like in that aspect. But the things that are broken right now that I can definitively say is there are a combination of 2 units. I don't even know what the units' names are. One of them is basically a zealot that does a baneling roll, and it's super tanky, and you almost gotta like run away from it and wait for it to unbarrel itself so that you can do damage. Then when you kill it, it doesn't die right away. It just kind of like freezes almost, and it krill. That's it. It's called a krill, and then it kind of blows up and does more damage, like a baneling. It's just
I've seen that. Right? Yeah.
And then there's these other little units that they have that you can build in mass that almost like shoot. They almost look like Corsairs, but for the ground.
Okay.
And they shoot these little tiny little beams.
They're like mini tanks almost.
Yeah, exactly. They're like mini tanks. Those are fine, but in combination with the krill, I mean, dude, there's nothing it's really truly bad. You have to be playing against a bad player that is like just really not good at macro, but if you're on top of shit, it's like the go-to build. And like when you see it, you're dead. You can't really do anything about it.
Now, is this irrespective of so whether or not they have creeped, you know what I mean when I say creep, like just using the Warcraft term, for going around the map to get experience to level their units. So is this irrespective of whether or not they've done that? It's still nearly insurmountable.
It's still bad. Yeah, it's still bad.
Because from what I've seen, because what I've seen from watching is that a lot of Celestial players aren't even bothering to go creep. They just show up on your doorstep with an enormous amount of units and kill you.
Yeah, and it's because the Celestials, to my knowledge, and once again, if there's somebody that's much more that knows more, you can correct me if you want, and you know, I plead the fifth. I admit.
Oh, only the Vanguard units can level. Oh, really? Oh, I thought that was a thing for all the races. Oh, okay.
So the Vanguards, they have the ability. So when you're killing creeps,
you're getting experience to distribute.
You can experience and you can level them up, and you can choose which units you want to level up. Do you want to level up tanks? Do you want to level up your Exos? Do you want to level up your Lancers or any other units that you want?
I totally thought that
veterancy.
I thought that veterancy was game wide. Okay, so that changes how I look at the game entirely from all the races.
If you do not do creep as Vanguard, you're fucked.
Yeah, for sure.
You're done. You're done. You need to have veterancy, and veterancy, each level of veterancy gives you more and more damage or speed or
stat boosts.
It's just it stacks. So you want to, and that's why when you're doing creeps, you want to make sure you're keeping every unit alive as possible, because they're going to keep getting experience, and then there is a cap, right? So you know, when it comes to Celestials, I don't know the intricacies all that well, but I do know that those two units and very specific builds are basically so broken that it's basically an auto win. There's people that play the game and they just leave the moment that the Celestial is picked. They just get up and leave. So you know, it's day 3. It's not like the game has been out for fucking 3 months and here we are. Obviously it's a bit tilting, especially when, you know, I win 80% of my games that aren't Celestials, and then when I'm playing against Celestials, I lose 80% of my games. It's not fun. And it's very clear. You just go to the leaderboard, you can just see who's winning what. With
the Celestials, so it's very clear that it's a combination of units that are a bit of a problem. One of the things that I know when I watched you play one of the Celestials, and I've seen other games as well, that you were talking about so it was a Krill, you said was the name of this unit or something like that? So it's a Krill or the Kree. Krill, anyway, something like that. We know what unit we're talking about. So when they die, just even if you were to take away a Kree, okay. So even if you were to take away the splash damage portion, my problem, I didn't even know it was splash damage. I assumed it probably was, but my bigger problem with it is that when you have a unit that takes that long to have a death animation, from a visual perspective, fighting against it can be very challenging to know or to gauge whether a unit is done to move on to something else or where you're sending your attention next. In StarCraft, when a unit dies, it's dead pretty quick. The animation is pretty quick. It's not like this long drawn out fucking meme. You know, it's not like a Dark Templar is like committing seppuku, in like 5-second long animation or some shit. And so even from a visual perspective, having it be this like long laborious thing, even without the splash damage, I think is probably something I wouldn't want in the game anyway. But having this thing be hard to kill for the most part, and but before not rolling after you, which sounds like they get faster when they're rolling downhill at you. And then they get to attack, and they're still hard to kill, and then they get a splash damage fucking afterwards.
Bro, it's crazy.
Is a little much. That's a lot.
That unit is insane. It's actually insane. Like, it feels like a tier 3 ability on a tier 1 unit. Yeah, exactly. The Kree get invincible when they die. And the thing is they're still there, and you're still shooting it. So not only that, your DPS.
Oh, so they don't automatically.
No,
they just keep going.
Yeah, and so your DPS is getting wasted on units that are already dead, but they're still fucking sitting there.
So it's adding micro.
Up to explode.
It would force you to. It would force you to auto target specifically to. Yeah, that's kind of
bad,
weird,
bro. It's fucking bad.
That's kind of weird.
That unit right there is so bad. It's so incredibly bad.
And that's their base unit, yeah? So that's their equivalent of the EXO, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that's their zealot, literally.
It's brutal. Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal.
So
it's like having a zealot with charge and everything else
out of the gate
all at once. Out of the gate, and you can blow up. It's like a Baneling charge lot. What's up?
It's got an immortal shield. My follow-up to that, just to wrap that section up when it comes to Celestial specifically, as far as their difficulty, is that, okay, so the units are bad by themselves, but does it also feel like, does it also seem to be that their timings for hitting certain milestones for army size or anything else seem to also be too fast compared to other races, or is it just a unit problem?
I think it's a unit problem. I think it's a unit problem, and because even with my exos, I can still kill. Like, they'll have more units, but with good micro, I can still kill them. The problem is it's the Kree. It's the Kree. The Kree, because how they roll in and they do the damage. You even when you're kiting like a fucking purebred Korean, it doesn't matter. You can just fucking slam your head on the keyboard and you'll kill them. So there's that. So those are the two glaringly bad things about the game.
Yep.
The Celestials right now are broken. Once they're fixed, I think it'll be a great race for the game. In fact, I think it'll probably be the most intriguing and it's the most unique race in the game. And I would probably say it's probably their championed race in terms of like, wow, we've actually created something that feels different than other RTSs. So that's nice. What else is there that's bad about the game?
How do you feel about the UI in and out of the game?
I think out of the game is fine. It's still very basic right now. Like, you can tell it's still, it's a little better than a placeholder, but it isn't like blowing your socks
not much.
off.
Yeah.
No, but at the same time, it's whatever,
Yeah.
That's whatever. I think the UI in-game can be polished up a little bit, but it's serviceable, and it doesn't take me out of the game, and I haven't complained about it. So I think that's fine. And that's probably because there's other bigger glaring issues. Maybe when those are fixed, then maybe you can add a little bit more to the UI. But the UI is whatever. That's whatever. It's really about the gameplay, and unfortunately, because of the gameplay, the art direction, it kind of hinders the gameplay just a little bit. So there's that. The other bad thing about it is Terran, or the Vanguard, is basically Terran. It's to the point where it's like
Jeff,
Deadpool.
It's in the rear with the beer, not the gear.
Not the gear.
The beer, and it's a BOB, not an SCV.
I know.
They couldn't have at least made it not rhyme, for God's sake. I mean, fuck, come on.
And it's like, it's literally, I was about to say, it's Deadpool levels of aware, to the point where, to the point where it's like, guys, you literally copy Terran, essentially. Like, you literally got barracks. You've got units that are. It's basically like playing.
Which
fucking
fine,
Terran.
because it's a human race, so like fine enough to a degree.
Cool. But the part that is a little off-putting is they're well aware of what they're doing, to the point where the vocals are rips of StarCraft 2.
Yo,
Terran. Yeah. Like, I mean, bro, it's really it's so in your face that like the thing is you don't want to be compared to StarCraft 2 because StarCraft 2 is better than you in every conceivable way. Every way except for response, which is which I'll get into later.
Yep.
StarCraft 2 is just better. So what you're doing right now is you're
inviting comparisons you're not ready for. You're writing checks you can't check.
Exactly. You can't cash. You can't cash these checks right now.
Yeah, fucking flip that.
I know what you're saying. You can't cash these checks. In another 6 months to a year, you might be able to cash these checks. But right now,
no.
dude, people come into my stream and are like, "Yo, what is this budget StarCraft?" And I'm like, to be honest, this ain't even StarCraft. This is Warcraft. But the reason why it feels like StarCraft is because the entire sound design is a complete rip off StarCraft.
Even the buzz sound for like you can't build here. Everything
about that is a complete StarCraft rip, and they do it worse in every way possible.
It's Dollar Tree StarCraft.
You don't want that. You really don't want that. So there's that. Let's get into some of the good.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because there's quite a bit of good.
Yeah.
Number one is, it's better than I thought it was going to be. So. Okay. Just from playing the game,
good start.
I played quite a bit of it in the last few days. I put in some long hours, and I'm having fun. So that right there is a huge W. I know I was very negative for the first like 15 minutes. Now we're gonna get into some of the good because I can dish it, but I can also say what's good.
Okay.
The responsiveness of this game is leap years above StarCraft. I mean, my God.
The net code is much better than StarCraft's net code is.
There is virtually no lag at all. It is smoother than a baby's ass. I haven't had a single solitary hiccup where it's like, in StarCraft where the game kind of freezes and you got to wait for the player to like reconnect. None of that shit. None. Barely anybody drops out of games ever. In fact, it's never happened. The game runs like butter. That part feels like 2024. That whole part there, they fucking grand slammed the shit out of it. And in an RTS game, that's what you want. You want this responsiveness. It's so responsive that it feels like it knows what I'm gonna do before I do it. It's that responsive. Like, it's so good. It's like when I'm driving my Porsche and I'm like, I'm changing gears. It's so insanely responsive that it blows your mind. You're like, how is the technology at this level? And you don't really know until you know. Like, until you play another game,
get there. Yeah.
And until you play something else, it's like going from 30 frames to 60 frames, and then you go, holy fuck, now I don't want to ever play anything in 30 frames again. Yes. So they've done that extremely well. It is the cream of the crop in any RTS known to man. The micro is so fucking good, and it feels good. That's the part that that just gets my dick hard, is when you're playing a really solid game and you're microing your tits off, and the tits are just fucking, they're doing everything, that every angle, they're looking perfect. There's nothing, it just feels good. You ever watch like a video on YouTube, like a YouTube short, and you watch a video and it's like somebody just like maybe like, I don't know, popping a pimple or fucking doing something that just feels, not that I'm into pimple popping, but there's people that say like there's something just like it just feels
scratching
good.
An itch. Yeah.
It's scratching an itch. And I gotta say, man, and I think that's one of the big reasons why I can't put the game down, is when it comes to the playability of it, man, it just feels fucking good. I mean, just imagine if the art design and everything was that of StarCraft, but then you have this technology. I mean, wow, it's so satisfying. It's really, really good. So there's that. And that right there alone gives me confidence that this game, as long as they're willing to put in the work, can actually do well. Just from that simple standpoint, because it does do it better than StarCraft 2, but it's the only thing it does better. It's literally the only thing it does better. And, you know, if StarCraft 3 was here, they'd probably do the same thing, right? But it's not here, and I don't think we're ever going to get it. Well, we won't ever get it. So that's really solid. Another really fun thing about the game is the maps. The maps and the creeps. I thought I was going to hate it. When I first played the game back in December, I'm like, man, it's too much going on. It's too much. It's a brand new RTS. Get all this shit. But it don't look all that great. And then you got to deal with creeps. And then they were talking about hero units and shit. I'm like, oh God, no. Please, for the love of everything that's holy and sacred. Apparently the hero units might be coming to campaigns and shit like that, but they're not coming to multiplayer. Man, I gotta say, the maps really make the game feel unique, even more so than what Warcraft did. So in Frozen Throne, same thing. You go around, you kill creeps, but you'd have a hero unit and all, so on and so forth. Here, there's no hero unit, but you go around, you kill creeps. Now each creep do different things. So some of them, it's a healing ward. Basically, you kill it, you hold it, you can go around, kill more creeps, go back to your healing ward. You can even strategically kill that ward when your opponent is attacking. You can actually sit in the ward and fight your opponent as you're being healed slowly. There's all kinds of cool shit. Then there's ones where you have speed boost. You know, and they give you resources. So like when you're killing certain creeps, you get certain resources, which then can help you spike to get tech faster or build more units. Then in the middle of the maps around creeps, there are full health gems or flowers or some sort of food. So you can fight creeps and then run over, get a full heal on one individual unit, and then continue to keep fighting. You can even do that when you're fighting as well, like when you're in PvP. There are so many strategies that you could do. The other great thing about this is in the map, a lot of the shit is destructible, the trees and everything. And it's just satisfying to open up certain paths. There are certain creeps that are behind trees, so you need to get a certain level of tech before you can destroy the trees to get in, to get the creeps, to then get the vision and the buffs. Very, very well done. Very, very well done. And that's coming from somebody that, in theory, hates that type of shit. And they won me over with that. So they've done it very, very well. What else is great about the game? I think the music is fantastic. Even though it's very StarCraft reminiscent. But it's very well done. I don't know who they got to do the music, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same people that did StarCraft. As it sounds great, and it doesn't get old to hear it. What else is great about the game? See, I'm not all negative. I'm showering. There is some positive in this game. There was one other big thing that I really loved about the game, and I can't really think of it off the top of my head. The tanks. So it feels like each race got a tank. At least the Ancestrals and the Vanguard do. And what's really nice about the tanks in this game, in comparison to the tanks, say, in StarCraft 2, is the tanks are basically like glass cannons. You know, like you really got to position them correctly, but man, they do a lot of damage. And they don't lock on to anything. They basically just create little circles, and you know the AoE comes down, and if something's in there, it all just kind of gets fucking wrecked. And what's really awesome about that is it really only takes 2, maybe sometimes 1, 3 tanks to really turn the shift and the tide of the fights. It feels so rewarding. In StarCraft 2, you build a bunch of tanks, and yeah, you do get critical mass tanks, but usually in StarCraft, 1 or 2 tanks aren't really going to be the differentiator in terms of a win or a loss, unless you're doing it to contain and you're being very aggressive. But just a couple of tanks in this can just change the course of a fight. And that's really, really nice. And I've been the victim of that, and I've been on the giving end of it as well. And both are really, really nice. The other thing is I don't rage as much in this game. I don't know if it's just because I'm in a honeymoon.
That's 100% a honeymoon period, boy,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it's because I will say when I win games, it's nice, and then when I lose games, it's pretty nice unless it's Celestials.
That's because you're still in a learning phase, and so everything still feels like a learning opportunity, and it's new. I'm promising that's a honeymoon early on phase because you're learning. That will eventually
change,
drop away, and that's just bound to happen. I mean, it's you know, you even said it when we were watching the other day. You know, somebody was, you know, your opponent was being nice and, you know, saying like nice fucking whatever it was, counter or nice whatever the hell. I can't remember when you were like, oh, how isn't that sweet? Everyone's still nice right now, and so that's like you know, that's
and it will
I think
change.
that's everyone. Yeah, that's gonna change too.
Okay.
But for now, it's everyone's happy, joy. Yeah.
I find the early game, the units don't do a lot of damage. Like everything is like hitting with pillows. But you know what? I kind of want to say it's a good thing because I think if they did more damage, the games would end much quicker. And this just
What's been your average game time?
I'd say about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, about 20 minutes. I've had some that go 30 minutes, 35 minutes, but for the most part, it's 20 minutes. And remember, I'm playing Terran and I'm playing playing like macro based. I ain't trying to end games early. Yep. I'm not, you know, cheesing or doing all ins, anything.
How long does it feel like? How long does it feel like it takes you, on average, to get towards like your last stage of tech, in a game? How long do you think it typically gets you to
7-8 minutes?
There? Okay,
7 or 8 minutes. But to be fair, I haven't gone Tech 3 simply and get carriers and stuff simply from the fact that pretty much nobody does. And I played against a guy earlier today that had carriers. I just destroyed them very quickly. It's still, the game is still so early that it feels like only 2 or 3 units ever get used in Vanguard, and only 2 or 3 units really ever get used for all races. There isn't there's so many different upgrades and things that just never get used. Ever. It's almost like there's units in there that just are never built. In fact, there are 2 units in early-ish tech that I still haven't seen anybody use in the 20-something hours I've been playing the game. Just haven't seen a single one. Hasn't been built. So I don't know if it's the fact that they're just so bad that people are just, they're not viable.
I think they're just finding something and playing a couple times, getting comfortable, and then they're falling in a lane and they're not looking to get, because eventually people just want to win. And so they'll they'll start taking the stuff, anything that they had any success with, and they'll just kind of stick to that lane until somebody comes out with a build where they're like, wow, you should really fucking chase after this unit because it changes everything. And then they'll start to actually fold it into their gameplay. I would imagine that's probably how it's going to go. Yeah.
So those are like that. Those are the big. Oh, and I hear that the campaign co-op shit is a hot mess. I hear that the campaign stuff is some of the worst campaigning in RTS history.
Ooh.
Is what I've been hearing. Like fucking awful. Like bad. Like super bad.
Are they being specific about it or just saying it's bad? Like, are they giving reasons?
It's just horrible. Like, I don't know exactly what it is. I know that there has been some stuff about cutscenes that have been really bad, and I think that they've acknowledged that on the Reddit and stuff. But I'm hearing that the campaign missions, stuff like that, is just
which is not good because that's the part they're actually charging money for.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I haven't played them, but to be fair, I don't care if the campaigns were the second coming of Christ. I'm playing ladder. So to me, I couldn't give 2 squirts of piss. But I will tell you, if you guys are excited for the campaign for this game, do not rush out and buy this right now. If that's all you're going to do, right? Unless you just want to support the RTS, then go ahead and give them your money. But if you're doing this like, hey, I'm going to pay $25 or whatever it is, don't, because I hear it's pretty bad. I haven't played it personally, but like there's Reddit posts about it. People in my chat were like, dude, don't even, no, this ain't it. So yeah, that's also pretty bad, but that's to be expected. This game is a multiplayer game. I couldn't care less about campaigning. But yeah, overall, I know I've had some negative things to say, but I also had some really positive things to say.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, the fact that I don't hate it, the fact that I like it and I'm enjoying it. I woke up this morning. I woke up, opened my eyes at about 8 o'clock. It was 7:58 a.m. Looked at my clock, and I was this close of skipping the gym and running downstairs to play this game. Right? I haven't felt that way about a video game in a while, like quite some time. So I didn't. I still went to the gym, and then I played because I was like, Jeff, just go to the fucking gym, all right? And then play your game. So I did do that. So the fact that I'm waking up in the morning excited to play this game, eager to play this game, is a compliment in itself. Is a big compliment. Now, do I think that this game is going to dethrone StarCraft in its current form? There's not a chance in hell. It's just not a chance. But there is a chance. There is a fucking chance that this game, if they can figure out the art direction, obviously, I'm not even going to be concerned about the balancing because it's so new. I know they're going to fix that.
Yeah.
They've got very competent people that can do the right things, and they're listening to the community, and they're making changes when they can. This has a chance to legitimately be the next RTS that people get behind, play, watch, and celebrate. But they really need to work on the art, and they just need to package this thing a little bit better. And honestly, they need to stop comparing themselves to StarCraft. They just do. Because every time they do that, man, I roll my eyes. I'm like, dude, this ain't it. This is not StarCraft. You know, I'm surprised they aren't saying it more like Warcraft than they are StarCraft. This is a Warcraft game, but with StarCraft visual audio, like with StarCraft sounds. And it's even got some Command and Conquer in it. I think it's more of a hybrid of Command and Conquer and Warcraft than it ever is StarCraft. Audio-wise, it's StarCraft. Music, audio cues, it's StarCraft to the point where, you know, if you're super casual and you haven't maybe played StarCraft in a while, you might actually think that this is this is a new StarCraft game. But it's not. So yeah, I'm gonna play again tonight and play again tomorrow and go from there. I will give an update each week on how it's going, at least until I rage quit this game. If I rage quit this game, because I get very obsessive when it comes to my RTSs and competitive games. I'm a masochist like that. I enjoy the grind, and I think the honeymoon phase about this game that I love so much is that it's so new that I'm on the ground floor, and there's so much to learn, and that is annoying. It is exciting. It is daunting, but refreshing and welcomed. It's like doing a chore. It's like going to mow the lawn. You don't want to do it, but then when you're out there and the sun's beaming, and you know maybe there's a beer cracked, you got the headphones in, and you're just zoned in. There's part of you that enjoys it. And then at the end, you look at the yard and you go, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about Stormgate right now. Like, I want to get to work. I want to go out there and do the shit. It's a little like, you know, do I want to, it's hard to put into words how I feel about this game. Excitement. I'm optimistic, but I'm also a realist, and I'm kind of jaded. So it's like there's a lot of shit going on all at once. And I think it's because I know the hill that they have to climb here, and it's a fucking hill. You know, that it's a fucking monstrous of a hill. Good news is I think they have the formula to climb the mountain. It's just, will they do it? We'll find out. And I've had tons of people ask, when are you going to start doing content? When are you going to start casting it? I've already been going into some of the replays and kind of seeing what my opponents are doing, stuff like that. The replay system they have right now is so basic that like you are quite literally just watching point A and point B, to the point where you can't see no hit bars on like health bars on anything. You can't see what upgrades they have and certain things. Like there's no names like where you can, like APM stuff and all these other stats and production stuff. And they don't have any of that. It's so bare bones. So, you know, I'm telling people what I'm going to do is when I'm streaming it, I'll put it on Leg TV. You guys can chill. I'm going to make a dedicated video probably this weekend that is like what we're doing here, but with real jot points and things I just want to say and talk. And that way, hopefully, if Stormgate or Frost Giant will listen to the video as well, that maybe they can, I'm not saying they'll change the game for how I feel, but, you know, I think if they maybe hear it enough, maybe they'll go, okay, maybe this motherfucker's, you know, maybe he's onto something. But then again, I'm just one voice.
Well, right? I mean, you're one voice, but I think you're, you know, most of what we've talked about today is common points. A lot of people have very similar points. I mean, other than, you know, the content creators you're mentioning that seem to be gun shy about being critical about certain aspects of the game. You know, outside of that, you know, like what I was saying when we were watching it over on my stream, and other people unprompted are having the very same or similar or samey reactions to various aspects about the game, because I think that a lot of them are self-evident. They're not like some hidden, mysterious back part of the game kind of thing. A lot of this stuff is pretty surface level and recognizable in a very short period of time, and ironically in a way that, you know, their units are not. So, yeah, I know. I think that these are all points that a lot of people are likely going to be giving them. Whether or not they act on them is another thing entirely. I think that as somebody that is likely to do 99% watching or do 100%, probably never play the game, my biggest issues or my concerns are chiefly around what is it like to watch, because an RTS in 2024 needs to be engaging from a viewer's perspective if you're going to have this self-promote in any way, shape, or form from an esports perspective or otherwise. And right now, it is one of the least readable games I've ever seen. And that's coming from somebody who's stared at a screen for StarCraft for fucking 12 years. It's you know, for me, I can hack my way through it. But for a person that's just turning it on for the first time, you know, it would be a similar problem as people watching an Overwatch. And why I think Overwatch has failed is that there's so much going on and the camera positions are so poor that it just looks like visual vomit and you can't tell what's going on. Even if you're a master of the game, it's difficult to keep track of. And that's what made StarCraft so successful in the esports scene, was that you could take literally anyone and plant them down and give them almost minimal information, and they would be able to have a decent idea of who is winning, how is the game going, how is a battle going in the midst of it, because of that those strong visual cues. So that's definitely, I think, for both players and viewers, that visual readability is probably, if I had to pick one thing to focus on specifically and get that done,
it, man.
Now,
that's got to be it. Yeah,
that's the one.
I'll say this, from a casting standpoint, this has potential to be a far more engaging and a better casting experience, not only for the casters, but also the viewers. And I say this simply because the maps are so pivotal to your gameplay that you're going to see so many different ways that people take advantage of the map. Whether it's positioning, whether it's, okay, we're going to start with the healer, then we're going to go over to speed, or maybe we're going to start with speed and go over to healer. Maybe we'll go over to the boss one. Maybe there's a specific build. Then you've got these health things that, you know, if you're, I mean, there's so much. Like, I can already visualize how we would do it, and I actually think that there is more for us to talk about, you know, in StarCraft, there's a lot of downtime in the beginnings, right?
Yeah.
And we've always done our thing where we just kind of either shoot the shit or tell a story or fucking plug a sponsor or do whatever, right? We always find a way to kind of fill that little few minute gap if it's not a win, cheese fails. In this game, I feel like we're going to have a lot more meat on the bone to be able to talk about strategies and things. Now, over time, I'm sure that there'll only be so many different openings that people will do, and it'll become very formulaic.
Yeah.
But with that being said, there is a lot there, and it's much more than StarCraft, which is nice. So, I actually think it'll be important for us to literally know the names of the maps and to talk about what the maps mean for each individual race and the benefits of creeping and not creeping and being aggressive and not aggressive. I think that there's a lot more strategy involved simply from a map standpoint. So that can be very, very that might be a very rewarding thing for an esport or for a viewing pleasure. But it all boils down to, can I actually make the game look nice, and make that appealing? Because if not, kind of all of it, kind of, in my opinion, kind of goes to shit. But then again, who knows? Maybe the art direction never changes, but the gameplay just gets better and better, and the game blows up. I don't know.
People can adapt to it that play it enough and watch it enough. The only counter to that I would say is that it's like Dark Souls controls were completely different from any other adventure game, and it was clunky as fuck. And now they're like standard controls for like a genre that they created themselves. So it's not that people can't. It's people can adapt. When it comes to visual stuff like that, though, my question would be: should they have to adapt, or should they just be readable from the get-go? And I would say that it's probably for the best if they were actually just readable from the get-go and not rely on people's ability to adapt over like thousands of hours of gameplay to spot a sword in a sea of fucking guns. Would not be a bad place to start. I do have a question for you, since you played predominantly, almost entirely Vanguard. And now that I know that, for example, veterancy is something that is exclusive to Vanguards from a creep perspective on the map. Now, obviously, the creeps have other benefits like speed buffs, and I think some of them are like damage buffs and things of that nature. There are various reasons to take them for the other races too. But for Vanguard, it's a very important, almost necessary thing to be able to move out and start gathering that experience early to make up for deficiencies that Vanguard has as a race, because they do have access to veterancy. My question is, have you in your experience thus far, does it feel like, as a Vanguard player, having to do that early, and how difficult some creeps can be to actually kill early game and keep your units not only alive, but at least at like an amount of health that if somebody came by and sneezed in their general direction, they wouldn't fucking turn into shrimp paste. Do you feel like that may be, do you think that is too much of a detriment? Because the way I think about it is this: if I'm playing against a Vanguard, I know there's an almost 100% chance that at certain windows of time, they're on the map creeping, and I will likely know, depending on map, which creeps they're going to start with and what times they're going to be able to get there. Once we're talking about a level of, let's say, if we were equating this to StarCraft, if you hit platinum, you would have those timings in your head. You would know when that's going to happen.
Yep.
That means that their base is exposed, and or it allows you to take advantage of timings to attack them when they're at those creeps with your own units, and you don't need numbers when they're going to be, on death's door a lot of the time early game. Do you think that only them having veterancy, and therefore only them in the early game especially, relying on that veterancy to make up for it, do you think that will become a problem when people start getting real fucking good? Because right now, not very many people are doing fucking advanced mathematics in their head about like when these timings are existing, like you're talking about, how it's going right now. But you fast forward 6 months from now, and you've got people that have been literally neck-bearding, sweating this shit to death, and they've got all the math figured out. Do you think that at some point that might become a problem from a balance perspective to keep Vanguards from just constantly being exposed all the time, both from a base perspective and unit health in the early game?
Okay. So, no, I don't.
Okay.
And here's why. Your base it can be exposed, and it's usually your naturals that are exposed. Now here's the reason why, like, yes, you're right. You have to go out there and get veterancy or you're fucked. I mean, it's that simple. But you're going to want to go creep anyway because you're going to get bonuses and more minerals or whatever they call the minerals in the game. The way that it's set up is, for one, it's a constant king of the hill game. So whenever you take a creep, you kill the creep, then you got to stand on it, and then the camps gives you vision.
Right, like a vision tower.
It's a vision ward, pretty much, a vision tower. It's like getting a Zelnaga tower.
Yep.
So once you have the Zelnaga tower, you can then continue to move out, and you almost, the way the maps are designed, there are a couple of maps in which you could go left instead of right or right instead of left. But for the most part, it's very linear. And some maps are set up where there are trees in certain areas that, like, you can't just go wherever you want to go without putting yourself into a vulnerable
or
position.
hitting certain levels of tech depending on what you're trying to do. Yeah.
Correct. So what's nice, and they put a lot of thought into this, is no matter what, usually when you go out and you get camps, there is a healing camp. So you kill the healing camp, but understand that it isn't just a one-time boost. As long as you hold that camp, it will forever be repairing you like a healing ward in Warcraft, you know?
Yeah, like healing over time kind of a situation.
Correct. So when you go to the next camp and you take a bunch of damage, you just run back over to your healing ward and you heal up and you go back out. And by that time, you have a few more units that you can add into your group, and you move on to the next camp. There are certain camps that are tougher to fight than others. Some are boss camps. You kill a boss, the boss actually becomes your unit that you cannot control, and it just kind of goes out and it starts attacking.
Like
now you can attack with that unit, like the rocket. Exactly. So you could do that. And then there are other ones where it's just big monsters and they just do a ton of damage or splash damage or whatever. You almost, if you're good, you'll lose very little units because you're going to always micro. And there, in and around the camps, there's usually one healing vegetable or something that you can run over and grab and then go back into the fight. The other thing is, too, with Vanguard, if somebody were to just run into your base while you're out camping, and they went and did that, as long as you don't use too much of your chrono boost, I'm going to call it chrono, but there are basically like points that you get, and you can spend it on abilities. You can overcharge. It's literally called overcharge your bobs, which are your workers, and they'll do more damage, or they'll build faster, or both. And so if they go in, as long as you have enough energy, and you should be smart enough to understand, not only that, if you're out creeping, you have tons of vision wards. You'll be able to see somebody coming in unless they're dropping on you, which is very rare. I've only been dropped on maybe 3 or 4 times since I've been playing. But essentially, you'll be able to hold with just a few units and your bobs if it's in the early game where they're trying to come in. They're just not going to have enough damage to outright kill you. Now, they might go to your natural and kill a bunch of your bobs, or force you to do an overcharge and then kind of run off, make you waste your energy and then kind of go back in. But by that time, you'll be able to come back to your base and kind of defend with your army. A lot of the time is, I have been in several base races, and it's one of these games where the maps are so large and your units move so slowly, unless you have certain buffs, that if your base is already, their whole army is already at your base, you need to commit. You need to go and just go fight them, get your bobs on the other side of the map, and start building. And what's cool about Vanguard is you can take 10 of these bobs and build a command center instantaneously, just about, right? Because they'll use more to get it done quicker, type thing, just like the human race did in Warcraft. But long-winded, the answer is no.
Okay.
The way that the maps are designed and the way that the game plays, it's almost impossible to just go and, my opponent he's fighting creeps right now. His units are weak. Maybe he lost 1 or 2 of them to creeps. I'm just going to go push now and he's fucked. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. You don't do enough damage.
It does sound like they gave Vanguard very human Warcraft scenarios. So like the overcharging Bob sounds a lot like the call to arms function that they had in Warcraft. Ring the bell, and then all the workers suddenly put a little bit of armor and get in there and do more damage. So that sounds good.
Mark said, did the creeps respawn? They do respawn, and they respawn, and they get tougher and tougher and tougher. So when you kill it once, you go back again, it gets tougher. You go back again, it gets tougher. You go back again, it gets tougher. So,
So in relation to that, so let's use the healing a tower as an example, because you said that it's there for as long as you hold it.
Yep.
Does the creeps respawn if you're holding it, or only after you're off it?
Yes. No. You can literally be holding it, and then once that timer is done, you'll just lose the tower. The creeps will respawn. When the creeps respawn, that means nobody has control. It's neutral. Then you kill the creeps again and you get it. So you have to go and re-kill those and retake map control. I don't even know what the timing is. I should probably know that, to be honest, and I'll figure that out tonight. I want to say it usually lasts about 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. I would say 5 minutes. But I don't know. I don't know the actual timing. Maybe somebody in chat knows. How
it
long
might even be different. It might even be
respawn.
different depending on the camp. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So but yeah,
interesting.
It's a fun game, man. It's a fun game. I look forward to playing it again a little bit later on tonight. It's got some problems, but does a lot of things well, and I'm actually optimistic. I really am. I'm gonna go as far as saying I enjoy it more than Battle Aces.
That was my last question. My follow-up was going to be, okay, you've played both. How are we feeling? And what, I mean, they're very different games, first of all, obviously, like totally wildly different. But for you, and you feel like you're leaning more in the direction of Stormgate. I suspect it's because it plays so similar to StarCraft.
Yeah, and I think what it is, and before this, I was like Battle Aces all day. And then when I finally sat down and started playing this game, I'm like, okay, I see you. Great news is Battle Ace is still a phenomenal game. Completely different. It's pure micro. You don't have to worry about no camps and no building structures and macroing and all this other nonsense. You just got to build basically bases and units, and that's the show. It's much more, it's faster, way more faster paced. It's two totally different games, and I'm so happy that they are so drastically different that they can both exist, and that'll be totally fine. But I will say, now that I'm kind of stewing in this traditional RTS, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is taking me back. This is kind of the games that this is what I prefer. It's,
yeah, it makes me think about the discussion I had on my stream last night when we were talking about where does the MMO genre go next? Because all of the most popular MMOs right now are all over 10 years old. They've been around for like a fucking eternity. And most of the MMOs that have come over the years have been modeling this very specific, in general, not all of them, but the majority of them have been modeling themselves on the tab targeting World of Warcraft style MMO structure. With very minor changes in various ways outside of going a handful of pure action combat MMOs. And the question now is, what the fuck comes next? There have been some attempts, but everyone seems to be failing. And these MMOs currently, they can't go on for fucking ever. I know people would like to think that current gen Warcraft is just going to go on for their fucking 30 years. But I don't think that's the case. I think you're starting to see the numbers and stuff falter, and so there's going to have to be something done by some people, and that's the question. But the reason it makes me think about that is what you were saying there about having played the new one, and then you went back to what's considered more of a traditional RTS. It makes me think about how much longer that same thought will be with MMOs, where somebody could do something new and it could actually be pretty good. And it could appeal to a decent amount of people, but then the people that have been carrying the genre for like 20 years from a player-based perspective, like in MMOs, the 20 million World of Warcraft players, then they go and put their hands on something that's different, and then they go back and they go, nah, now that I've played a traditional MMO, I really just, this is just kind of the kind of it, and that's got to be nightmare fuel for any developer sitting down and entering into certain genres that have these kind of like almost what seem to be, design philosophies that almost seem to be like ingrained to the point where it's impossible to move them. But then when you do it the same way, then everyone goes, well, why would I play this? You're basically just Warcraft, but Warcraft, I like Warcraft already from like characters and story. I know everything. So if you're going to be the same fucking game, the fuck am I playing your game for? I'm just going to go back and play Warcraft all over again. So it must be friggin' nightmare fuel. And I'm sure Stormgate, despite the fact that they're breaking the fourth wall every 5 fucking seconds with like in the rear with the beer and the Arnold Schwarzenegger fucking voiceover and like all the shit that's there, like it's all like the exact same sound effects. Despite that, I'm sure they are at some level with the understanding that they have to push it in some way. They can't just sit there because, like you said before, when we talked about Stormgate, is if they're just going to be StarCraft, people are just going to go back and play StarCraft. It's because it's just such a perfected, long-standing, ingrained game in the genre that if you're just going to be the same, the way I look at it is that it's fine if you copy something. But when you do it, you have to know that if you're going to mimic something that specifically, it is going to exponentially increase the amount that people are comparing you directly to the thing in which you're copying. And that's only good for you. That can only be a positive if you're doing it as well or better. And really, it almost always needs to be better. Because if you're only as good, people will almost always view it favorably for those that came before. So if you're not going to smash it, you're just drawing bad comparisons that you can't win over time. So they got to be careful with that shit.
Yeah, no, I agree. But next week I'll give you an update on. By that time I'll have tons of hours in.
Yeah,
maybe
of course.
I'll feel a little differently of it. It's starting to take over my life a little bit. I'm starting to like think about it when I'm not playing it. I'm like looking up stuff. So as I start to learn more, I will share more. I'll give you my thoughts. Once again, everybody, my thoughts, not necessarily always right. You know what I'm saying? I'm biased.
It's just your opinion about the game. Opinion. That's all it is.
It's just my opinion. That's all it is. My opinion. Some people might like some of the things that I dislike, and they might dislike some of the things that I like. So very very solid overall experience so far. They bought a good month in my books. Just from what I've been playing. Let's just hope it just gets better.
Well, on that note, give us a little sellout, Mr. Black. What do we got this week for the folks at home?
We have got patreon.com/legtv. Head on over there, throw some money at the screen if you want to support us directly. We might be making some content for Stormgate as well. I would say there's a high probability it will happen. It's just a matter of when. I think the replay system needs to get a little bit better. And obviously, I still need a couple more weeks with the game. And Adam will learn alongside doing the cast or whenever he can watch.
I'm just watching games and doing that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we're enjoying it. So if you guys want to support us, you guys can head on over to patreon.com/legtv and throw some money at the screen. We will always continue to keep doing StarCraft as well. So you don't have to worry about that. Obviously, if Stormgate really takes off, then maybe we'll just do, a Will Cheese fail each week and then focus on, Stormgate. We'll figure out something to appease both.
We'll blend it.
We'll figure it out. And then of course we've got our sponsor, which is NordVPN. Head on over there to nordvpn.com/OTT and get yourself a 2-year subscription. And for a limited time, when you get a 2-year subscription, you'll also get 20 gigs of data for Saley, which is their eSIM card. So instead of going and get a burner phone for your travels or for your everyday stuff, you don't want to have a secondary phone or buy one to throw away, use for a little bit, or maybe you travel to a place and you just want to use your same device. You can do everything digitally right on your phone through Saley and NordVPN. So go check them out. Super easy to use. You just download it once. You're good to go. Works on every phone. And for whatever reason, if it doesn't work, on your device. They will give you your money back 100% guaranteed. And if you, like I said, if you got that 2-year subscription, they're going to throw in 20 gigs on top of that. But if you already have a NordVPN subscription, you can add this service on top of that at any time. So make sure to go check them out. It's nordvpn.com/OTT. Get yourself a VPN and go check out Saley. And if you don't know what a VPN is, it's a virtual private network, which allows you to mask your IP so that you can unlock parts of the internet that maybe is region blocked to your specific area, or you can just stay anonymous as well. So just keep yourself safe from those online predators and the people that are out there to steal your credit card information and get your cookies and see what you're doing and just spy in on your stuff. Ain't nobody got time for that. Get yourself NordVPN. 1 in 3 households have a VPN. And this is less than a cup of coffee a month at Starbucks. Less than half a cup of coffee, actually. It's crazy out there. Inflation's wild. But you know what hasn't been inflating? NordVPN. NordVPN has been staying true. It's been staying affordable. And it's been staying real the whole time through. I don't ever have any internet connection issues, no server issues when I'm on NordVPN. And shit just runs like butter. Just runs like butter. And who don't like a little bit of butter? I like butter on my toast. I like butter on my biscuits. Dude, I like butter on my waffles. Shit, I like butter with my NordVPN. So go check them out, nordvpn.com/OTT. And that's it.
When you said keep yourself, prected from predators, a dark part of my brain almost made a YouTube joke there for a hot second, and then I backed off the gas pedal.
It's hard not to these days. Jeez, my goodness.
God, you can close your eyes and throw a dart at a board, and you're gonna hit like 5 of them. It's just crazy out there right now.
It's wild out there, bro.
I don't know what the fuck.
Wild out there, bro. It's wild.
Like I always knew it was bad, but like God,
it's
dang,
bad. It's real
what
bad.
Is going on?
Bad. It's real bad out there.
And now it's time for
movies and TV.
Really, all I can mention for movies and TV that I'm aware of this week, obviously, is that Deadpool and Wolverine is crushing the ever-living shit out of it right now, making buckets of money all over the place. I believe the last I checked in their opening weekend, they were 6th all time. And then the number 1 for R-rated in their opening. I think globally they did $428 million or some crazy fucking bonkers number. 200 and something million was domestic.
Yeah, 200 or 545 million worldwide so far. It's a lot of money. It's a lot
for
of
an
money.
R-rated movie, bro. Come on now. That shit's crazy.
I went and saw it.
How are we feeling?
I mean, I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, but I'm also going to say the good and the bad. Yeah. The movie, from a story standpoint, was ass. It was it was objectively a bad movie. Like, I mean, story-wise, even just editing. Like, the movie itself was really just not good. But, my God, was it fun. It was just so much fun. I mean,
I think that's what they were going for. I don't think the rest of it they gave a fuck.
No,
they got Hugh Jackman back on the TRT long enough to get in on this bitch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I mean it is basically fan service. The movie it is if you took the biggest fanboys of Deadpool and Wolverine and said, hey, why don't you write a script? I know you're horrible at writing scripts, but just write a script on every possible character you want to see and the actor or actress that plays the character. You want to bring back people. You want to see new people. You want to see people that were cast but didn't actually make it. Somebody else. You just put it all in here. Have it make no sense. Just put people in places and have fight scenes. That's what it was. That's literally what it was.
I'm gonna be honest. That sounds fucking awesome.
It was awesome. It really was. It was a good time in the movie theaters. I mean, just the opening sequence, and I'm going to spoil nothing for nobody, but just like the opening sequence itself. Let's just say there is an NSYNC. It's a full NSYNC song. I have
seen that because NSYNC changed the name of it on YouTube to include in brackets from Deadpool and Wolverine.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh man, bro, that whole opening sequence was like. It was like it set the movie tone, but as the movie kept going, I realized that once I stopped really caring about the movie, and I was just like, you know what?
Just have
Think
fun.
of this like a Jason Statham action movie, right? Have that same mentality. You're not going in there to watch fucking something that's going to really make you think. It's super predictable. It's like it's about as formulaic goes. But my God, is it fucking fun? And Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are absolutely born to play these roles.
Yes,
and they are, you can just tell that they're having a fucking blast. They like each other a great deal.
Yeah.
And they're doing it almost, it feels like they're in on it. The whole thing, they're in on it. Literally, there's so much fourth wall breaking to the point where, like, at one point, Deadpool is like, yo, Marvel, bro, just hold the L. Like, what you're doing is fucking shit. You peaked at Endgame. I think he literally says you peaked at Endgame. He literally, so much shit is being said in the movie. But then I'll say this. It does get old after a while. They do regurgitate some of the same jokes.
Yeah, of course.
And I could have used 20% less gotcha humor and 20% more heart and seriousness, and it would have been a far better experience.
Sure.
But it's like 85%, haha, we're in on the joke. We got a rated R movie. We're going to tell you it's rated R, and we're going to do all of the rated R things. And, you know, we're going to celebrate that, and that's that. Hey, fine. But I will tell you this. This multiverse shit, this variant stuff, these different versions of all these characters got to die today. It's got to die. It's so.
Don't tell Robert Downey Jr. that, because he's just getting back on the horse.
I know, dude. I left the theater going, that was awesome, but it was one of those things where you could tell, in my opinion, they blew their load on it. As in, like, you just came and you had a build up. And now your dick is limp, and no matter how much she's trying to get the dick hard again so you can go in, it's not happening. So, like, and I mean, the load was glorious. It fucking, it was amazing. But it's like, now that it's done, I never want to have another one of those experiences again. Because just like Endgame, Deadpool has peaked. Wolverine has peaked. This is it. This is it. They could be like, yo, we're going to do Deadpool and Wolverine 2. I will scream at the hilltops, don't do it. You're going to ruin the mystique of all of this, the specialness of it. It's gone. They blew their load. I hope they make $1 billion. It'll be close. If it's the last billion that Deadpool makes, so be it. But this is it. I cannot deal with any more of this inside Marvel jokes. These like, oh my God, it's Disney, but we're making cocaine jokes and, you know, fucking anal jokes and all this. We've done it. If you do it again, it's tacky, it's cheesy, it's bad. It's done. It was a fun time, but objectively awful movie. It was just a bad movie. It was like, we're gonna drop you in on this spot to just bring this character through, have a fight scene, and you don't care about any of it. You don't care who dies and who's alive. None of it matters because it's all variant shit. It's all it's just,
so I have
turn your brain off and have fun.
Yeah, I have a question, right? If you go into a movie and you have a fucking blasty blast from start to finish, despite the fact that it was written by a fifth grader with their non-dominant hand, is it still a bad movie if the goal of this movie when they sat down was to just have people have a really good fucking time and laugh and turn it off?
They succeeded.
They succeeded at their goals. So is it bad? So I guess the way to qualify it is if you're going into a movie to pick it apart as an Oscar performance, obviously it's dog shit. But from the success, from the point of it being successful at making people have a great time and just enjoy themselves for whatever 2 hours, whatever the fuck this thing is, I think it has to be. It's a good movie from that perspective. Yes. I guess is how to look at it.
The reason why I think it's generally a bad movie, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I think I gave it an 8 out of 10. So take bad for whatever. It's not like I gave it a 4 or a 2 or a 3 or a 5 or a 6 or even a 7. I'd still giving it an 8. But what I'm saying is it did nothing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You were thinking that you have Wolverine and Deadpool, you have Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, two of the darlings of this whole the whole thing, and you have objectively had bad TV shows and bad movies. You've had the whole Kang Dynasty thing just get wiped away because of Jonathan Majors and his situation. The Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole has objectively been bad, with a couple of like good things kind of sprinkled in from time to time, but just bad. They had an opportunity here to kind of steer the ship. You know, you have this movie that everybody's going to go and see with two characters they love, and all they did was double and quadruple and triple down on the fact that how shit Marvel has been. But then they do nothing to get you excited about the future. There's no connective tissue that you even the post-credit scene in this isn't anything to do with what's to come, but it's a joke to go back to what has already happened, which I won't spoil.
Right.
It's that's the part that why I said it's bad, is because it doesn't do anything for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just a fun time in the movie theaters that with just bad writing. The writing wasn't good. It wasn't. Even a lot of the jokes fell pretty flat, but the ones that hit, man, I was belly laughing out loud several times. I laughed more in this movie than I have done in any movie in the last decade. But it's because they are saying a lot of the things that I and a lot of the public have been saying, and it's like it's crazy to see it and hear it on such a big scale and have it be so having them just rip themselves an asshole like that and be okay with it. That part was really, really funny for me, but it did get old after a while. Like after the third or fourth time, you're like, okay, well, let's move on. It got to the point where I was hoping for more heart, because when the heart came, because Hugh Jackman can act, man.
Yeah, of course.
Can act, dude. He did Logan.
Yeah.
When there are scenes and stuff where I just wish they just chill the fuck out on the jokes. And it's not like Guardians of the Galaxy jokes. It's literally Deadpool looking at the camera and like in the middle of something heartfelt, you just see, like Deadpool just kind of come up and do his thing. And it's like, can we be serious for 10 minutes? Like, let's enjoy, like, what is this? Is this a fan-made thing, or is this real life?
I mean, it's always good to have some serious so that you can have it contrast with all the funny. Because if you have all funny, then yeah, you get fatigued from it. Less stuff can be funny because it's been given no room for seriousness leading up to the funny.
Yeah, but this guy says it's a Deadpool movie. I mean, yes, it is a Deadpool movie, but this is
doesn't mean you can't have like 10 minutes of just like,
Listen, whatever you want to say, Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 had stories. It had some kind of heart. It had some kind of connective tissue. This was like Deadpool 1 and 2 on crack cocaine and almost no heart, no story, no substance. It's just mindless killing. And there was one big action sequence with a lot of characters in it, and they filmed it so poorly. It was a bunch of cuts and jumbled fucking mess. It was like, what are you doing? Like, I understand that there was a lot of actors and actresses that may not have been in action movies for a long time or whatever. Maybe they're a little bit older or whatever. It was not that. It was a huge letdown. One scene in particular, one of the big action set pieces, but overall, it was good. It was good. Exactly like Love and Thunder. It's the same thing. Love and Thunder went into parody. It was a parody of Thor, and this felt like a parody of Deadpool with Wolverine. It was like Wolverine came in and was like, "Hey, yo, let's give the fans what they want, and let's give them a little bit more." So they went above and beyond in some spots. Like there were because I had nothing spoiled. I went the day it came out, And I went in there, and there were people in this movie that I was like, what the fuck? You're in this? Oh, hell, what? Well, no way. And I was like happy. Like, I was like, man, this is really fucking cool. They pulled this off. Nobody knew about it. That's pretty sick. But then there were some where I was like, I eye rolled. I'm like, really? I don't need, like, it was a mess of a movie, but it was a good mess. It was a welcomed mess. I'm happy I saw it. I suggest anybody and everybody to run out to the biggest theater and see this. This is a movie that you're going to want to watch on a big screen with an audience. The audience, laughing is contagious. The cameos and hearing the audience, reaction to certain cameos, it just adds a whole nother level to this. But do I want to see Wolverine and Deadpool 2? No, I don't. Would I go see it? Absolutely, I would go see it. But my God, I don't need to see it. And Hugh Jackman was great. Ryan Reynolds was great. A ton of other people were great. It was a fun time in the theater, but it was a bad movie.
Magnificent. Other than that,
yeah.
And then there's Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. That's getting some interesting reactions as well. I mean, I get the angles that you can take with that based on comic book shit and how hard they're abusing the multiverse angle of this as well. Helps them basically do whatever the fuck they want with no recourse. Yep. I don't know if I give a fuck either way, to be honest with you. I just don't care. Robert Downey Jr. is a fantastic actor. He's Iron Man. He's going to be behind a mask as Doom most of the time anyway. I don't know if I can be asked about it because, as you just said, as Deadpool pointed out, Marvel has been dog shit for a fucking while. And I don't think paying Robert Downey Jr. $80 million to don the Dr. Doom mask is suddenly going to fucking fix
more
that problem.
Yeah.
More than 80? What was he getting paid for?
He's rumored to be making more than $100 million a movie.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Because he's going to get paid on the front end. He's getting all kinds of points in the back end. They are quite literally, and they got the Russo brothers coming back to direct.
It's because he told them he'd only do it if the Russo brothers were doing it. Apparently, is what I heard.
Probably. You know what this is for me? This is desperation.
Oh, pure desperation.
There are so many talented actors that could have played Doom, and yes, I understand this is one variant of Doom. You still might have other Dooms. I just think what's going to happen is you're going to have a Tony Stark variant that becomes Dr. Doom. And, the Avengers are going to be like, oh my God, Iron Man. Oh, Tony, you're back. Oh, wow. And he's like, I'm not Tony, bitch. I'm Dr. Doom. Or I am Tony, but I'm Dr. Doom, whatever the case may be. And they're literally doing this because what are the 4 best Marvel movies of all time? It's fucking Civil War, Winter Soldier, Endgame, and Infinity War, right? And the Russo brothers basically, create really good Marvel movies. And then you've also got Robert Downey Jr. And what they're doing is they are in desperate mode. They're like, okay, we tried to build out this universe without fucking Cap and Iron Man. Spider-Man did really well. But then again, they got to share Spider-Man with Sony, and there's all kinds of... They're saying, all right, you know what? Fucking Jonathan Majors is out, which I think was a mistake. I think they should have... But, it's Disney. So, that's not happening, or at least not right now. Maybe Kang will come back in the future, and they'll give him another chance or something along those lines. But Robert Downey Jr., fantastic actor. He's going to put butts in seats. But it just feels like more regurgitated shit. It just feels more of the same. It just feels desperate and lazy.
For me as a viewer of this stuff, my immediate reaction to this stuff is that or how I felt about it was I felt like I went to a funeral and then like the next week who I went to do this funeral for all of a sudden came back from the fucking dead and I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about it, because I had just compartmentalized the fact that we had just finished this big, huge arc with all of these actors being these characters and closing it out in epic fashion and wrapping this whole thing up. And now it's like, fuck it, RDJ, Doctor Doom. And like, I don't know how, you know, I was comfortable with just be like, man, what a fucking run. And now here we are. So and knowing on top of that it's 100% desperation, the odds, I don't know if anyone could convince me that Marvel had somebody else dialed in. I think they tried to get a few different people and just couldn't get somebody. And I think this was like, if you told me that they made the decision to lock in Robert Downey like 2 weeks before he showed up at Comic-Con or whatever the fuck and pulled the mask off, I'd believe you.
I'd have believed it. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I think once Jonathan Majors was out, they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
This ain't working. Those other storyline, we need a big hook here. We're going into the Avengers. What's a bigger hook than fucking Robert Downey Jr. coming back, playing a different version of Iron Man or Tony Stark, but now he's the big baddie. Now the Avengers are gonna fight fucking Tony Stark, but Doctor Doom. Like, they probably pulled up the fucking Brinks truck. They're like, Robert Downey Jr.'s agents were probably like, guys, listen.
Who else is coming back then?
Yeah. You know,
that's my question.
Like an academy, and he's, well, I mean, who fucking knows, bro? I wouldn't be surprised to see the whole
everyone. Chris Evans gets back on the roids to get himself back into Captain America, and I just, that's my question. Is once you bring back Robert, everyone's gonna be sitting there going, well, fuck. I mean, who else is on the table then? Like, if we just put all these people to pasture, these characters away, we're like.
Who knows? You know what I'd love to see? You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see Kang show up and fuck and fuck up Doctor Doom. You know, have the original big baddie show up and fucking off this Tony Stark version in Doomsday, in Avengers Doomsday, and then still have Kang be the big baddie in the next one. I know it's not happening. Disney's wiped their hands clean with him, but it would have been nice. It would have been nice.
If it wasn't Robert, who do you think you would have liked to have seen do a Doctor Doom?
I don't know, because I don't know the character. I never read the comic books. I don't know who would play.
He's basically an egotistical giga brain. He's the bad guy version of Tony Stark, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I can't think of somebody off the top of my head, but it would have been. It's just why Robert Downey? But I know why, because money. That's it. Money. Because this was not the plan before. Now it's the plan.
No way.
So
yeah, for sure.
This is This is the last. Hail Mary. Let's fix this. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, and with that, let's move. Unless you got anything else. You got anything else that came up, movies and TV wise?
No, nothing. I've been watching Dirty Pop on Netflix, which is
I saw the first 3 episodes of that, dude. First of all,
I'm on episode. I'm going on episode 3. So I've watched the first 2 last night. We're on episode 3 now.
So I'm not going to say anything in specifics, but I will say, because you've already would have seen enough of it at this point to maybe have the same thoughts. It's like, I had forgotten this guy was so closely tied to so many of these bands. I had forgotten entirely.
Everybody. Oh yeah.
Everyone. Yeah. I mean, obviously when we were kids, we would have seen him, but we would have had no idea where he came from. This guy came up out of like fucking nowhere, left field, doing some crazy shit. So what an interesting documentary that's been so far. I haven't seen all of it. Yeah, I think I'm 1 episode ahead of you. But fuck me, dude. And what a title. I mean, it's the only choice you could have taken. Dirty Pop. It's perfect.
It's perfect. It's fucking perfect. So it's pretty entertaining. I'm gonna watch another episode tonight, and that outside of that, I went to the movies and saw Deadpool, and I went to the movies and saw Twisters. So yeah, I did like 2 movies in a week, which is rare for me these days, but it was nice. Enjoyed it. And outside of that, that's it, man. I haven't watched anything else.
Beautiful. Well, in that case, it's time for
Tech support.
Patreon.com/LikeTV is the place to go if you want to financially support the podcast and or StarCraft and possibly even in the future, Stormgate. Possibly. I promise nothing. For $5 or more a month, you get a couple of perks. Chiefly, you can ask us questions on a post I put up before the podcast called Tech Support. And in the comment section there, you can leave your questions. We give you answers from the time that we have. Let's see what we've got this week. David asks, what would be the best and worst places to take someone out for the first date?
Best place? I mean, I just think having a meal is probably the best place is to just, it doesn't even have to be anywhere fancy or expensive, just a place where you can sit down where it's relatively quiet, but not overly quiet. Like there needs to be
quiet enough you don't have to shout.
Yeah, well, yes. And not only that, there needs to be, in my opinion, for a first date, it's nice to have something else going on around you.
Yeah.
To break up any type of awkward silences or anything like that. That there's something either, you know, if you're at a sports bar or whatever, there's TVs there or, you know, maybe, I don't know, but just something, but not too quiet where you can hear a pin drop the moment you both stop talking.
Yeah.
So I think like just finding a balance, so like try not to go to like a fucking club, or like a place that has super loud music,
sports
unless
bar.
that's your guys' vibes. But I think just enough. But I mean, even in most sports bars, you can kind of sit back in areas where it's not
find a
as
spot.
loud.
Yeah.
You can find a spot. But I think a place where you can just have a conversation is the best place. I think the worst place that you could go on a date.
I think the movies are used too much as the first date. I think it should be the second, because I think the first date should be, like you're saying, somewhere where you can have conversations and get to know each other, so you're not just awkwardly sitting there next to each other. And then on the next one, then you can go see a movie and go in afterwards, and then after you talk to each other, now you can talk about the movie and do that. But it doesn't. But you don't have to, like, if it's the first date and you're just going out to the movie and you're just awkwardly sitting next to each other the whole time as the movie's playing. Yeah, so maybe the second date. I think a first date is a mistake to go to a movie theater for that reason.
I agree with that. Yeah, I can't really think of a worse place to be. I mean, the only thing that I would say would be like find out what your person's interests are to some degree, and just try not to do the opposite. You know, if they don't like being in crowds of people, don't go to a place where there's a bunch of people. You know what I mean? I think, you know, because like going to a movie might be an awful first date for the vast majority of people, but to certain couples, they might, that might be their fucking love language. Just going to a movie theater, you know, the whole process, finding somebody else that enjoys doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I agree with you. I think movies are overused for a first date.
Roarin, first of all.
I've taken a few.
Yeah, I've definitely I made that mistake myself. Roarin, thank you for the congratulations, first of all. Then the question is, what is one place you can't stand that other people seem to be able to stand or enjoy? And the example he gives is Disneyland, Disney World.
The beach.
The beach? Not a beach guy.
I don't like it. Not a beach guy at all.
I'm not really a beach guy either.
The reason why is I don't particularly like swimming in the ocean. It's not because I'm scared of the ocean. It's just, at least here, it's pretty fucking cold. Even when I go away on vacation, the ocean is typically pretty fucking cold. And then also, it's the sand. I don't like sand getting in my fucking socks, in my clothes.
All right, Anakin.
Yeah, I just don't. Usually there's no shade, so you have to take like
umbrellas
and you got to pack shit and fucking. I just don't like beaches. I rarely go to beach. You almost have to drag my ass to go to a beach. Pool? I'll go to the pool. I don't mind the pool at all. I even don't mind a lake where it's quiet and it's not shared with a whole bunch of fucking people, if it's just your own personal lake in the backyard or whatever, or maybe in the neighborhood, and there's like a handful of people that show up, don't mind that. But the beach, it's the first thing that comes to my mind. It's a big no for me, dog.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't like the beach very much, but the one place I don't like more than the beach is the public pool. I hate a public pool. I hate it. I hate being with that many people in a body of water in general, let alone in just like a fucking chlorinated pool. I feel like I'm just swimming in other people's piss and feces, and because I am.
Because you are.
That's what's happening. After doing the camps with the kids and stuff, I've seen one too many kids shit in the pool. It's fucking awful. And in general, because you're not outside and whatnot, if you're not in the water, you're just freezing your fucking ass off the whole fucking time. So it's just, it's uncomfortable, it's unfun, it's crowded, it's weird, it's kind of disgusting to me. I know the chlorine is killing everything in the fucking water. That doesn't help that if I'm seeing some kids shit float past me, then I'm feeling good about it. It's just not, it's just not it. So the one place more than the beach is that.
I'll say this about the beach. I love the sound of the beach. I love the sound of water.
Yes.
The air. I love that shit. I just don't love sitting. It's the heat and the sand and the people. I just don't. That ain't it. That ain't it. It just ain't it for me.
It's true.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Juminator, if you were an actor, what movie genres would you like to star in if you were an actor? And what would your role be? Hero, villain, comedy relief?
Okay.
Jeff is Samuel L. Jackson. No.
I'm gonna go. Listen, man, if you could throw me into a Quentin Tarantino movie that is like a sci-fi that's like it's realistic, but or it's comedic, but it's serious. It's almost like tongue in cheek a little bit, but like it's still serious. I'd fucks with that. I'd fucks with that pretty heavy.
So Pulp Fiction.
I could also Pulp Fiction.
Kinda.
Yeah,
but
Pulp Fiction.
Science fiction version of Pulp Fiction, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, really, throw me in any Quentin movie, I'll be happy. But I would say, if you want me to be serious-ish, I would go science fiction, and I would play a villain. I'd be a villain type. I'm not a hero. I'm just not that guy. I'm not that guy. I'd have to be a bad guy or a conflicted good guy, almost an anti-hero. You know?
I think I would be perpetually stuck in like buddy cop territory. I think that's where I'd end up being the whole time, and you'd probably have me being the straight man, or I'm either playing the straight man or I'm playing just the quippy, sarcastic fucking character is basically it. But I'd be stuck in like buddy cop or like Ryan Johnson's Glass Onion, whatever the fuck, like that kind of murder mystery that has dark comedy undertones the whole way through it. Like that's the kind of movie that you'd see me in or doing. I'm like Leslie Nielsen, but with less slapstick humor. It's kind of is where I'd be, sticking in, or like a John Cleese with less racism. This is basically, I think, something along those lines. Anyway,
he said less racism, so
less.
You're still getting a little bit. There's still some, just less.
Under the guise of comedy.
That's right. Where you can get away with it.
Exactly. Actually,
I don't know. It's 2024. You might not get away with it.
It's all right. Everyone says that, but nobody ever actually fucking goes away anyway. So I think we're okay. I mean, after watching the fucking what was that video you sent me where it's like the guy doing Trump and the guy doing Biden? If the shit I heard in that one, I mean, my God, if they didn't get friggin' drawn and quartered, I think everyone's safe at that point. And I'm not even talking about Biden and Trump. I'm talking about the fucking people they brought from out back. They say some of these guys were saying some crazy shit.
Oh man,
fucking out there. Let's see. Shank asks the questions. He's got a couple here, I guess. Weirdest thing you've ever eaten, and then the follow-up is food you ended up liking, but you didn't think you would. Oh, he's got three. This is a 4-banger. So this is all food related.
Easy there, killer.
Yeah, so they're all food related, so they're kind of easy. So the weirdest thing you ever ate.
Yeah.
Food that you didn't think you'd like, but you ended up liking. Food that you don't like anymore that maybe you used to. And something that you'll never eat again. So we'll start with the first one. So what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
Weirdest thing I've ever eaten. I don't know, man. I'm pretty fucking bland. I mean, I had a protein bar that was just made out of like almost maggots. They were like some kind of
like insect based
like an insect based protein bar.
Yeah. It'd probably be like crickets or something like that. That it was
crickets.
made
That's what it was. It was crickets.
Yeah.
It was crickets. That was kind of weird. It was good, but it was weird. And when I say good, that's
it was passable.
Like
you were able to eat it.
I was able to eat it. So I'll probably say that because I can't really think of I'm pretty vanilla when it comes to food. Like I kind of have a lane and I stay in it.
I mean that's pretty that's out there for most people eating crickets.
Yeah. And I mean don't get it twisted. It looked like a bar, but it just was made out of crickets.
Yeah, insects. Of course. So. Weirdest thing I ever ate was straight up. I mean, it was when we went to the Philippines. I eat balut. That shit's fucking weird to me. It's still weird to me. It's not going to ever not be weird to me. So, in fact, you could go skip down to number 4 and say food you will never eat again. It's probably that.
Yeah, and I'll probably go with cricket protein bars.
Number 2, food you ended up liking, but you didn't think that you would.
Sushi.
That's actually good. Because younger me, if you said, hey, you want to go eat some raw fish? Be like, what? Nah.
Be a big no for me, dog. Big no. And
True.
Funny enough, I actually had sushi for the first time, but I had California rolls. And people were like, dude, you're not actually eating sushi, man. You're fucking eating rice with cucumber in it, pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretend.
They're like, get fish. I'm like, no, I'm not eating raw fish, bro. I'm not eating raw fish. And I've always liked fish. I've always liked seafood. Yeah. But just the thought of it, like the texture, everything, just like, nah, bro. And I finally tried it, man. I fell in love. It's my favorite food. It's my favorite. There's no better food than sushi. None.
Man. I feel like I have to agree with sushi. I don't know if there's something else I can think of that springs to mind. I know when I was younger, I'll say this one as just a secondary, but sushi's definitely on the short list. When I was younger and I always saw mom and dad eating like mushrooms, I thought there was no way I would ever fucking like mushrooms. And then when I was a kid, I got obsessed with eating like raw mushrooms with dip, like with like veggie trays and shit. It was like crack cocaine. I was just all up in those mushrooms for a while to the point where for a time I had to stop. I just ate too much fucking mushroom. I had to pump the brakes. But yeah, I would say those two. But sushi's a good one for sure. And the last one, a food that you liked at one point, but you don't like anymore.
Coffee Crisp.
Oh, calling it a chocolate bar. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Is there something that like, did you just eat too many of them and then you had to stop, or like?
I think that's part of it. I think that might be part of it. I ate so much Coffee Crisp before I met you. I was I was eating Coffee Crisp all the time. Like, I mean, it was like.
Which is weird because I would have never pegged you for like a Coffee Crisp guy. Like, it's just like in a million years of all the things I've seen you eat, like Coffee Crisp would not be.
Do I hate it? I don't hate it. I just refuse to basically go out of my way to buy Coffee Crisp when there's infinitely more chocolate bars to eat. So that's the first one that just came to my mind. So I'm just gonna go with Coffee Crisp, but there's plenty. I mean. The biggest one, the absolute biggest one, is hot dogs. Just regular wieners, regular hot dogs.
Okay.
You
don't
won't
like
catch
them
me
anymore?
Them. Fuck no.
Interesting.
Hate them.
And that I know that's good. Did you eat a lot of them as a kid? Was it like you just
all the time? Too much.
Yeah.
All the time. That was it. Even I was telling the stream when we grew up, like we didn't grow up with a whole lot, and food was just not one of these like things that was important in our household. We always had food, but it was not good quality food. It was not good. It was the cheapest.
Well, it was also the fucking 90s. Everyone had a very different idea of like what food even needed to be, whether you had money or not. But yeah, for sure, hot dogs short list on the inexpensive.
Oh man, hot dogs, pork chops, liver, and there was another. Oh, and Kraft dinner. And I cannot forget about Mr. Noodles. I ate so many Mr. fucking Noodles raw dog, not even cooked. Oh yeah, just dude, in
that
the
was
bag.
That was a really you did the sauce or the powder, and then you crush it up, and it was like a snack. Dude, that was a big thing as kids. Like we did that too.
Huge.
Yeah,
it was huge.
That was super popular.
So yeah, those things I ate, and I remember when we used to have the delicacy. My mom was like, "Yo, tonight we're having homemade pizzas," and we'd be like, "Yeah!" And then those homemade pizzas would just have cut up fucking hot dogs, and I would hate my life.
That's mom trying to feed you more hot dogs, but in a different way. Basically, is what that is. Yeah,
that's all that was, man. We got hot dogs in the fridge, lots of them. Yep, yeah, bless.
That's the way. That and TV dinners. You open up that freezer at Jeff's place as kids. It was a joke. Like it was almost like an amusement park ride. Jeff would be like, "You want to see something?" You come over, you like open the freezer, and it was just packed to the fucking rafters of just frozen dinners. Yeah. Man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of like what. I know there's a few things that I'm like that with for sure. Man. Oh, here's one, I guess. I used to be a big fan of fried clams and fried mussels. But fried clams specifically. In fact, of all the places for me to have gotten on or being turned on to fried clams was our junior high. Remember they used to sell fried clams at the cafeteria?
Yeah, delicious.
And we were spoiled at that cafeteria. We actually had a fucking fire cafeteria at the time. So I got onto them there, and I ate them like all the time, but I can't do it anymore. But some of that is because I avoid all shellfish after my bad run-in with that with the scallop that had me fucking power puking for 4 straight hours. So now I just avoid all shellfish. I'm not allergic, but my brain will not let me.
Yeah, it's like, no,
I was too sick. So I'm good now. But I did, at that time, I was crushing deep fried clams. So that's definitely one. I went through a period of time where I couldn't eat rice because we were eating so much rice at home. I couldn't eat any more of it. And now, obviously I'm marrying a Filipino. There is no such thing.
I just had rice.
Yeah. We are swimming in rice in this household. But you know what? Compared to back home, we have not nearly enough rice. Her good friend Rox, who is her best friend Rox. She's got a couple of her brothers living with them at their place right now because they're going to school here. And they buy like fucking like 50-pound bags of rice a week. Like they eat. I'm not even sure how it's physically possible to eat that much rice. I eat like a little bit of rice and it fills me up. Like it balloons in my fucking stomach and I can't eat. Like I would eat if I wanted to eat less. I eat rice because it will fill me up quick, and but I'm watching them, and it's like 5 pounds of rice, and they're just fucking shoveling that shit. I don't know how it's even possible. It's crazy, but like they're saying back in the Philippines, is rice is life, because nobody's got money back in the Philippines, so rice is like 90% of what you're eating, and so I've had to learn to eat rice again because you best believe there's rice being cooked in this fucking household on a nearly daily basis. So that's definitely on that list. What is this question? What? Hold on. Oh. Okay. I don't know if you did. I don't know if you watched enough of this. I'll ask a question anyway. Blainer asks, did you watch a lot of episodes of The Simpsons when you were younger? So I'll preface it with that. Did you watch much Simpsons?
Fair amount.
Okay.
My cousin Coleus was obsessed, so whenever I was
Simpsons
with him,
guy?
he was watching it 24/7.
You may or may not have this, but the follow-up was, do you have any episodes that you remember the most? And then he gives his examples. His are Lisa's A+++, with Homer's Lobster was the episode that he's dialed in on. Do you have any episodes that stand out for you?
I mean, there was an episode. It was Lisa's birthday because I watched that episode several times, and they had that little jingle, "Lisa, it's your birthday, happy birthday, Lisa." And they had like a famous artist on there too. It might have been Stevie Wonder.
It was Stevie.
Was it Stevie Wonder?
It was Stevie Wonder.
Yeah. That's a memorable one. Geez. There was a Halloween one that was a lot of fun that I remember. I mean, I can't really. There's not a lot of Simpson episodes that like I cherish or that are a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
It was always on, and like I've probably seen 100+ episodes of The Simpsons in my life. I'm sure there's probably thousands.
Which is like one 100th of the entire. Yeah.
But I mean, still, even 100 episodes is a lot of episodes of any show.
It's true.
So I've seen a fair amount, but I've never been a huge fan of The Simpsons. It's not really like it's one that if it's on, I'll watch, I'll laugh.
It's a fucking institution. It's like it's just there in the background all the time.
Correct.
Yeah. I view Simpsons the same way. I've probably seen a couple hundred episodes over the course of my life, but it's always a show that's just there. It's good. The day when the day comes when they stop making The Simpsons, it's gonna be fucking weird, because it's like it existed more or less when we were within shot of us being born. And it's been continuing our entire life. So the year that the day that it comes where they finally stop making Simpsons episodes, it's gonna be really, really strange. As for episodes that stand out to me, I think the one that stands out to me, but not because I like love it or anything, but the gag that got me laughing probably the most of all the episodes I watched was the episode where Homer is trying to like learn how to cook. And he's so fucking goddamn terrible at it. And at one point in the show, he sits down and tries to pour himself a bowl of cereal, and the bowl of cereal somehow catches fire. Like that was probably like the gag that fucking killed me. Like just watching him fail at everything, and then he sits down, and the one thing that's like impossible of fucking up a bowl of cereal, and he pours the cereal and it lights itself on fire, like spontaneously combusts. That shit fucking killed me. So that was probably the one that stands out. Stands out.
How much money has these voice actors of The Simpsons have made? And I mean, just the sheer amount of residual money that is going to be going to their families for like generations. I can't imagine.
Honestly, my bigger question is: are they getting paid enough? Like, because you think about how long they've been doing this and how much. Like, The Simpsons is fucking huge, dude. I mean, The Simpsons is fucking.
Oh, dude, the syndication alone, like the money that they must be making in reruns, have got to be
huge,
fucking
huge,
massive.
Yes.
Like. Amount of money.
I don't know if they've ever mentioned how much The Simpsons makes, but it's got to be just an absolutely filthy amount of money. Just an insane amount of money.
All of it.
Dr. Samurai asks, you alluded to how Jeff proposed last time or proposed last episode of the podcast with 4 ideas. Do you remember what all 4 ideas were? I don't know if I remember all of them. Do you?
I remember one of them.
Okay.
One of them was a scavenger hunt.
True. Yes, that was I think the first one we were come up with was the scavenger hunt.
Basically, I was gonna leave like an envelope or a note or something for Kayla with some money in there, and basically telling her to go to the mall, go get yourself an outfit. We're gonna go out tonight, type thing. And then I was we were gonna set up all these different things that were inevitably gonna happen, and then I was gonna kind of propose. There was another one. I mean, originally too. And then I was gonna propose at karaoke, and because we used to go to karaoke a lot, so I was gonna make it seem like whatever, and then I was gonna go and sing a song and then
Right.
propose there. And I don't remember what the other ones were.
Well, the last
ultimately
one was the one where we went to the waterfront. It was our last ditch effort. It was the waterfront play.
That was it. Yeah.
And it was so it was so anticlimactic too, because it was like we wanted to go down to the waterfront, but by the time we got to the waterfront, it was so late. And so some parts of the waterfront were you just couldn't really go anymore. And so the place on the waterfront we ended up going was like this nondescript, like the least exciting fucking spot in the entire waterfront.
It was bad, bro.
Next to like a parking lot. It was just
it was bad, but you know what? We did it. And here we are, you know?
But that's the story, though. Like, the story is almost more important sometimes than the proposal itself. Like, if the proposal went off without a hitch, it's kind of boring. Like, you know, it's just not quite, you know, it's not quite as fun as being able to say, like, we sat down in my parents' place for, like, 9-10 straight hours trying to concoct, like, all of these various things. And, of course, none of them go to plan. And we end up just going to, like, some part of the waterfront at, like, fucking, my God, it was like 11 o'clock at night or something. It was pitch black. There wasn't a single person anywhere. We were the only, it was me, you, and I was still with Natalie at the time. This was me, you, and Kayla, and Natalie. 4 people. There wasn't a single person anywhere else. We were just nondescript. It was kind of foggy. Like, it was just kind of a weird fucking, and then I remember we were just sitting on a bench, and, you know, I know what's happening. Natalie knows what's happening. You know what's happening. Kayla's lost in the sauce. And we're just sitting on a bench there at the waterfront. And we were there for like 15 minutes just talking. And I kept thinking to myself, we gotta like, where's Jeff gonna like interject here? Because we're just sitting on the bench.
It was brutal, man. It was brutal, but we got through it. And here we are. It'll be 10 years in October of marriage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, that shit was funny as hell. It was fucking funny as hell. Let's see. We got one more in here. Oh boy. Okay, fuck it. This will be the last one. Why not? Marky Mark, not our editor, but Marky Mark asks. By the way, Marky Mark, loved you in The Other Guys. You guys have been critical of the latest batch of Canadian politicians, but who was the best Canadian politician during your lifetime and why? And who do you think is the GOAT of politicians? I mean, that's a statement. I mean, okay, listen. Like anything, everyone that's ever served as prime minister has had upsides and downsides. That's just politics in general. You are going to get people, no matter who's in, whether you voted for them or not. You're going to get people that say they're going to do something and they're not going to do it, either because they just choose not to, or because the other party blocks them in attempting to do it. Because it's just the nature of politics. It's not like the prime minister gets in and suddenly they just say something and it happens, and that's the show. That's just not how any of this works. And so sometimes it's because they don't bother trying. They just lied outright, through their teeth. And other times they get fucking blocked. And and that's the way it is. The reality is that Jeff and I are of an age now where we the only ones that we'd be able to even comment on would be the last 4 or 5 terms, really, because we were only voting and old enough to even be interfacing with this well enough. Excuse me, for 4 or 5 terms, 4-year periods. And so, as for who's the greatest fucking prime minister of all time, I wouldn't, I'm not a historian to be able to say who seemed to pull that job off. As for who I think in our lifetime, honestly, if I had to choose one in our lifetime, even though it was before the time in which I could vote, even though and none of these guys are fucking perfect. Chrétien was probably...
I was literally about to say Chrétien, but the thing is I was young as well.
Yeah.
But from what I recall, Canada was like at its happiest. There was a lot going on, but like and again, not perfect, but a lot of people would probably say Chrétien is on the short list at the very least, whether they liked him or not. Like, if you're trying to pick a short list in modern times for prime ministers, he's going to be shortlisted, almost guaranteed, for sure. Yeah, I didn't really follow Canadian politics all that much. It hasn't. I've only really kind of submerged myself into it over the last 4 or 5 years. So, it is what it is. I can tell you definitively, it is not Justin Trudeau. So,
no,
there's
definitely
that.
not.
And although he didn't particularly do horribly in his first few years, man,
it's funny. You know what? It's funny. Well, it's funny. It's not. It's funny in the sense that Trudeau's trajectory as a leader is almost identical to Stephen Harper's, and they're in 2 different parties. So Stephen's first
loved
4
and
years were great. Like he might not like everything he did, but like Stephen Harper did a pretty good job in that first term. And then the second one, he turned into a complete fucking maniac, and it was off the fucking rails. And then he got like his own party. Everyone was like, "Nah, bro, you need to be gone."
Bye.
And we're seeing the exact. And then that's how Justin won, was on the back of him basically imploding. And then Justin has a pretty solid first 4 years in his first term. And then now here where he's just gone completely off the fucking rails, and his own party is telling him to get the fuck out, and everyone's going to get him out of office entirely. He's never going to be able to fucking serve anywhere likely ever again. It's just funny that like the 2 back-to-back prime ministers we've had are from both sides, one conservative, one liberal, and they resulted in the exact same. Yep. Like they doomed themselves. Like they literally dug their own grave. It's fucking weird. So yeah, I mean it's been very weird from that perspective as a Canadian for sure. But I would say, yeah, most people would probably agree. Not perfect. A lot was going on internally in Canada at the time. Coincidentally, of course, Chrétien being French himself, but Quebec separatism and all that stuff was still like it's always there in the background, but it was hotly contested and talked about at the time. And certainly, I would say, in general, even though I was really young, I feel like I was old enough at that point to feel like how Canada felt, like how people were talking about my country when I was a kid. Yeah. And for whatever reason, that pocket with Chrétien, Canada felt the most like Canada in that block of time, and then it started to decay. And to the point where now Canada doesn't even feel like fucking Canada right now. I don't know what country I'm living in, but it does not feel like Canada anymore.
I'd tell you, but I don't feel like getting canceled.
Bro, ain't nobody fucking canceling your ass. Ain't nobody want not enough people. There are 26 people here right now. 26. You get canceled by 26 people. Be serious. Be serious. Ain't nobody coming for your life on a fucking opinion on Trudeau on 26 people in this podcast. Be real.
I feel you.
Nevertheless, there you go. It's funny that we both said the same one for that, though. That is kind of funny. I do think it's true. I think most people, whether they liked him or not entirely, would probably also point at Chrétien. But maybe that was also just the era. Who fucking knows? The 90s were a pretty ballin' time. We came out of the oil crisis. After 1992, the interest rates fucking finally came back down to earth. And everyone was like spending $1 trillion at Christmas time. You know, Home Alone was the #1 movie. There's like the idea of a 10-person family going on vacation for like a fucking week was actually something that any amount of people were even thinking of being possible. You know, it was the credit cards started becoming like wildly like everyone. So everyone was on the fucking hardcore like post-cocaine binge money copium. And it was, so maybe it was a little bit of that, but yeah, nevertheless. Chrétien, there you go. He was leader. I will say this about him too, though. Last thing about Chrétien, the dude had a fucking set of balls.
Did he ever? He was outspoken as fuck. Yeah, he was.
But he was a nice guy. Like, okay, so like it was like one of those guys like, don't mistake my kindness for weakness kind of individuals. Like Chrétien was not an asshole in like an unrepentant asshole,
man. Yeah, but he don't give a bro. He will speak his mind. Like if he has to, he'll speak his mind.
Yeah. Which is we could use that now. I don't know if I'm ready to compare Pierre Poilievre to Chrétien. Pierre might have a couple of positives. I don't think he's Chrétien though. I don't quite think he's there yet. But he's all we got, Jeff.
He's all we got. Adam.
He's all we got. We gotta just fucking go for it.
Got. Gotta go for it, man. Please
Please be
don't
okay.
fuck this up.
Just be
Just
okay.
don't implode. Yeah,
Yes.
just don't fucking fuck this up, bro. Please.
Just
God damn. You have one
that's
job.
all we need.
Get JT out and get rid of this carbon tax.
that's all we
For
need
fuck's
you to do.
sakes,
You could
and
literally
slow
do.
immigration down. Do these 3 things, bro, or these 2 things, and you're a winner.
Yes.
You win.
You could do nothing
Chill.
else.
Yes, don't fucking say anything too stupid. Don't come out of fucking left field and fucking come up with some dumb ultra right fucking dipshit fuck. I don't know.
That's the one thing I'm kind of
chill
concerned
the
about
fuck out.
is that he might get in and then some crazy shit's gonna come out of
don't
him
think
like
so.
out of
He doesn't-
nowhere.
Yeah, no, I think he's too smart for that. I do. I think he's too smart for that. He's
for all of
already
our
changed.
sakes,
He already
I
changed a couple of his standpoints on certain
positions?
things. His
Yeah, that's true.
positions. You know,
That's true.
you know, please, for the love of everything that's holy and sacred, just don't fuck this up, bro. You have one job. One job, bro. The seat's yours. Just don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it
God
up,
damn
please.
Fuck me,
Well,
bro.
On that note, we gotta go and we got one job too, and that's casting StarCraft. And so we're gonna go and cast a little bit of StarCraft, and so we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoyed yourselves, and so until then, do us a favor, have a good one. Stay safe out there, and peace.
Hey.